Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting on this Monday, August the 8th, 2022, at approximately 7:10 p.m. Ms. Derry, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. AC Brown, absent. Ralph Baker.
Here.
Rod Howell.
Here.
Here. Good grace. Cindy Dennis.
Here.
Tim Terry.
Here.
Lance Terry. There's a quorum.
Thank you. If you would please stand, we'll open our meeting tonight with a prayer led by Brother Jeff Ivy from Greenwood First Baptist Church, followed by our pledge by Chief Will Dawson.
Father, we thank you for this day. Lord, thank you for this great nation we get the blessing to live in. Thank you for this city. And Lord, thank you for those that serve it. And God, tonight we pray that you would bless and guide this meeting. Just give everyone here wisdom to know your will. And pray that you would just help things go smoothly. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. So let Brother Jeff lead. You know how it works.
I heard how late y'all stay. I don't know.
Just like a Sunday morning. Are we going to use this tonight? Tom, do you have this down for you? Huh?
That was for your presentation.
Do you mind raising that over there? Thank you. Thank you very much. This time I would ask that the council consider the approval of the minutes for the July 11th regular council meeting.
Mayor, make that motion.
Have a motion? Second. And a second.
Mr. Meeker.
Yes.
Mr. Powell.
Yes.
Mr. Daniel.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Recognitions and acknowledgements. We don't have anything specific to announce other than we're glad to see everybody here. We've got a good crowd. Thank you for being here. We are right into committee reports. These are all typically submitted by email. I think we did pretty good this month getting them. Boys and Girls Club, Lisa from SRCA, Parks Commission, Water Wastewater Commission. If you did not receive something or you don't see it in your packet, the questions, let me know, or Danielle, and we'll get you some answers on. Citizen forum, we do have 2 signups tonight. Mr. Newcomb is on the list first. If you would step forward, Mr. Newcomb, and give us your name and address and your topic. You have 32 seconds. You have 5 minutes.
Is it 129 Recreation Drive? What is the rule of active truck?
Is that on, somebody? The mic?
I can't tell you.
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, good.
There you go.
It's on. Yes.
I was looking for some information, basically on the fire department, what was discussed in the fire department meetings, especially if the councilmen were voting on things in the fire department that were going to come before the council, because according to the municipal league that I read, they're not supposed to discuss or vote on anything in the fire meetings that are going to come before the council. I wanted to make sure that wasn't happening. That $500,000 fire truck is what got my interest in all of this. And I couldn't find records anywhere. I can't find records anywhere of fire meeting minutes. And was finally told by city officials that there are none. And it's that most fire departments don't provide minutes. Well, the difference in our fire department is we don't sit in that meeting. And if I remember the law, if there's 2 or more councilmen gathered, you have to notify the public. And I'm not sure if I got that right or not.
2 or more that are gathered together discussing city business.
That's what I mean, if they're discussing the same business. Does the fire department plan on start to initiating providing meeting minutes for the public? You councilmen, I don't see how they can avoid talking about, like, sorry, it's the latest example of the truck that you just bought. I don't see how you could avoid talking about it and possibly even voting about it. I'd like to see the fire department provide some minute meetings in the monthly meeting. I don't know if that's asking too much or not. I just would like to know where my tax dollars, and these people's tax dollars go. I know it's a shave in fees, but I'd like to know where it's going and how it went. I heard we needed the truck because we was going to have to help the other one was out of date or out of service or something to that effect, and help make a list. Something like that. I don't know. Huh?
Is that a compliance?
Out of compliance. Okay, thank you for the word. I just wanted to know what the deal was on it. And I've gone back and looked at some of the meeting notes, or minutes of the meetings, of our meetings, and several things that have gone before the fire department, before the fire department councilman vote on it. And I just want to know from the meeting minutes they have if that matches what goes on in this room. And there's all kinds of things I've heard about. I can't document them, or I can't say they're correct. I haven't checked them out. But I would just like to encourage the fire department to start providing meeting minutes to the city. You've got 2 councilmen in there, won't let that ask a lot. And, the municipal league said you're not supposed to talk about, well, if you don't have your meeting minutes, we don't know if it happened or not. And I think it would add a lot of comfort to citizens if those meeting minutes were provided. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And by the way, Chief is not here tonight, and not that he's recovering from surgery still, so he's not here to answer anything. We'll get that looked into with permission. Thank you.
Can I respond?
Yeah, absolutely. You have it right there.
I was listening to you, Jim. I think there is something that we've never considered, because I sit on that board, and we do talk about the needs of. So we do talk about the needs of the fire department, and at points there's all 3 of us in there. And the fire board determines the needs and then puts them before the city council. I'll visit with our city attorney. Maybe we should, when it gets to points like that, maybe we should keep minutes.
That's all my request is, because, when you go and look at some what was the detail behind this, you can't find what was said in the meeting, or the meeting. And I just encourage that you started just, for a comfort factor, maybe a safety factor for your own.
Well, I think you may have a point. We are careful, not there to talk about pending legislation. Of course, you have, if you were to do something like that, people hear things,
Yeah.
So, so that's the big no-no, is to talk about pending legislation.
Yeah.
But there is, I do think you have a point. I mean, when you're talking about stuff that's, going to hit the budget, I think that could be considered pending legislation. Definitely pending policy when you pass it by resolution. I'll visit with the city attorney about maybe in certain situations we start taking minutes.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. According to the municipal league, you can go with this ordinance that is considered pending legislation. So that's what I'd like to know.
Well, since you left, we passed it by resolution. Didn't have anything to do with you leaving. It makes it easier, the government leadership's different than it used to be. And I think with some of the controls that were put in when you were there in the beginning, I think it led us to the point where we don't have to kind of do those type of things.
I think it's been 5-6 years since you've seen me, Dave.
I
I think it's 5, 6 years since I've been on this podium.
Sure.
So I just had a question, and, you know, I have a question, I'm going to ask it.
Well, I do think you may have a point, and I'm going to visit with the city attorney later about making sure that we are very transparent in what's going on in the city of Greenwood. We definitely are here for the citizens and want to make sure that they're fully aware of what's going on. We don't want to be like Fort Smith, it's $700,000 lawsuits, be for deceiving the citizens of the city. We want to make sure we're very transparent in what we do. And fire department's a great deal. It's cheap. It's incredibly cheap for the size of town we are, and we're blessed that we have the fire department and the structure that's.
Well, I'm not talking anything bad about the fire department, because as you and I are talking, you fixed my garage door many times.
Yeah.
We have a #1 volunteer fire department in the state. I'm not talking down the fire department at all.
Yeah, you're talking about transparency, and I think you may have a point. I'll visit with Mike later to see if we need to do
As far as the
something.
first responders go, I'll back him up and meet with Sid. I've seen him eye to eye say for my friends and family. I support it too.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
He makes some good points there. I wondered, I don't think the fire board approved the spending of the money. I think the council probably did that after like a recommendation from the fire department. I think the compliance word probably was the main reason. I think this was over a year ago that truck was purchased. I was just curious why, 3 months before election, we're just not bringing this up. I didn't know.
I'm not running for office.
Yeah, I know you're not.
I enjoy being a private citizen. I'm not running for
Right.
office.
I just thought it was curious that we waited, 12 months to comment on it.
Well, let me help you out, Tim. I've been stoved up for about 3 months with a total knee replacement. I would have been interested.
Right, well, we're handicapped accessible because we got wheelchairs.
Get him. Jim, we also have other things that are out of compliance, so there is more to come eventually. You just do things as you have to. That's all I have.
Okay, anybody else, Councilman?
I would just say that, again, in order to stay in compliance and stay, to keep our ISO rating, which is, we worked hard to get an ISO 2, and in order to maintain that, you have to meet the standards, PA, you have to stay in compliance, or you'll start going back down. And I think, every community strives to be, the highest ISO that they can be, and because of our expenditures, because of our trying to meet those standards, we've been able to get to an ISO 2 rating.
Well, I see it's not that I want to reduce it, increase the ISO rating. I enjoy it just as much as anybody else. It's just that I feel like if I come in and ask for something, and it's no big deal, I just want to, kind of like an overseer, if you want to put it that, sorry, I pay taxes, I have a right to know what's in there. I'll be able to look at it and see it, and there's no fire meeting minutes, and I'd like to suggest that you all start keeping.
Well, the money gets spent here in council meetings and budget time, and there's certainly minutes on that. And really, the only place those tax dollars can go is for, trucks or building, brick and mortar kind of stuff. So I think, there's really no other place to spend that money.
Well, I disagree with you a little bit. Those firemen were discussing, that's my tax money paid. I disagree with you on that too.
There's other places that could be spent in the fire department.
Oh, I'm not saying that at all.
Oh,
No, I didn't say that. My big deal is I'd like to see minutes. I'm not bragging about the fire department. I'm not bragging about first responders. I'm not bragging about who's sitting in those chairs. I simply want to see the minutes, and I think as a taxpayer, I've got a right to ask that. Now, as a councilman, you tell me no, go jump in the lake. That's your prerogative. But, sitting here as a private citizen, and you're spending my money here, you're spending my money, I'm sorry, you're spending my money in that meeting. I have a right to know what's going on.
are you going to get the police minutes too from their meetings, or?
Huh?
the police department meetings, do you want some of their minutes as well?
Do they have 3 city council members in those meetings?
I don't know.
No, they don't.
That's the point he's trying to make.
Okay, let's make sure that if we need to talk, we come to the mic. That's fine.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Just make sure we come to the mic.
No,
Nobody's talking.
it's no big, look, it's no big deal, just start keeping minutes. You have 3, you know, I was on the council for 6 years, and you know that. One thing we had to do is absolutely stay professional and no black marks against us at all as councilmen. That's what I'm suggesting to you. You know, when there's talk out there and you look, and people don't understand what's going on, it just gets worse. And it's been going on really good for quite some time, and I'd like to see it continue to go on good. And if you're trying to recruit me to run for office, to you, I'd be fine.
I'll be the one the fire department.
No, I can't climb a ladder anymore. I can't do it.
All right, anything else from council? Thank you, Mr. Newcomb. Another young lady to sign up is Miss Sue Edwards. You'll state your name and address, ma'am. And make all to stay in his seat, that'd be great.
After 56 years, forget that. I'm just up here again. 11 years ago, I was up here. You all did a good job. The Greenwood Fire Department saved my house. It's a scary feeling when you're out of town, you get a phone call and say, hey man, you got an hour to get anything out of your house. We were able to get there, and God changed the wind direction at the last minute. But had it not been for the fire department standing there, stomping out fires and spraying houses down, that whole neighborhood would have gone up. And Miss Tammy recognized the issue. Miss Johnny on the spot. Police Chief Dawson was there, and all the fire departments that they was called out. Lance orchestrated, got the fire on all the roofs, the trees, and we're cutting some trees and trying to get rid of some of the evergreen around our house. But thank you all again. We appreciate what you've done. It was a big difference from 11 years ago. It was, everybody worked together this time, so we appreciate it. Thank you, Lance. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We absolutely did. I witnessed it, and I'll tell you, it's, every time the chief leaves town, something major happens. So either we need to keep him here or get rid of him all. No, I'm kidding. There's been that fireman, there's been so many times that he's gone. And he called me, by the way, and said, I'll be there in a little. I said, nope, just stay where you are. These guys have got it. So the chief does a wonderful job, but these guys handle it. Thank you. So moving on to the financial report, Mr. Marsh.
In your packet, you'll have key financial data in the end of July. The cumulative growth for the city sales and use tax is 1.3%. The same period, 2022 over 21 for July, the month of July, was 7.10%. Cumulative growth, 22 over 21 is 7.3. We budgeted 6, that's the 1.3% increase in our cumulative growth over last year. The county sales tax budgeted 10%. We had the same period growth July over last July at 20.7. Our year-to-date cumulative growth is 16%. That's 6% above budget. That is your county sales and use tax. Advertising and promotion, 10% was budgeted. Our same period growth July over July was 6.45%. Cumulative A&P tax collection growth from the year for the year is 6.51%. That's down 3.49% from our actual budget. And I do have to point out that one of our top 6, actually one of our top 5 in the top 6, A&P producers of the A&P tax dollars is out of commission still due to the flood. So there's a little bit of an impact there. Some of the, I've noticed coming in recently, some of the people that were a little behind in their collections have caught up, so there should be a little bit of a bump in the month of August due to some people paying some of their past due taxes. Cash flow, year-to-date net increase of 1.9 million. I'll explain a little bit about why that happened. If you look down on net income, you'll see the ARPA fund came in during the month of July, our second tranche, $975,195. As of today, that is still unallocated, and we'll have to do kind of a discussion probably at the next council meeting as to how you want to allocate that. We'll put together some recommendations. The money right now is sitting in the restricted account ARPA funds under the general fund. The cash flow current fund balance for all funds is $17,722,000. That is an increase of 12.1% since the beginning of the year's balance. If you look at our net income, $10,625,000 is our revenue for the city for the month through the month of July. Our total expense through the month of July, $8,005,000. Our net income right now sits unaudited at $2,068,000. Water sewer AR revenue adjustment is $24,000. That number goes up and down every month. It depends on, we are truing up the balance on our balance sheet monthly due to the accounts receivables collections that they're doing and or non-collecting. So if they've had more people delinquent in their bills, we end up with adjusting the accounts receivable up or down based on whether they had more collections than not. In this case, they had more collections of $24,000, so that with the ARPA funds, our net income adjusted for extraordinary items is $1,117,000. Capital expenses through July, capital expense and improvement year to date is $1.175 million spent. Our capital improvement budgets, now it does say include budget resolutions completed in 2022. So far, we had $6.6 million in budgeted expense for our capital for the year. That is a spend of 17.78% so far through the month of July. And if you turn the page, if you're looking at it on a hard copy, otherwise on your sheet, you'll have a brief show of what the Arkansas Valley Solar Impact Analysis is right now to the city. Right now, we are just under 2% savings. The other three main buildings, which are the one you're sitting in, the fire department and the police department, I believe those buildings are not on Arkansas Valley, they're on SWEPCO, and that has not come online yet. So there's no savings from the SWEPCO side. As far as the graphical picture, we are trending positive. We are net gain on our kilowatt hours generated from the kilowatt hours that are being produced and sold back to us from the Arkansas Valley as far as what they're billing us for. So the last 3 months we've trended upward in generating more in solar than they are in providing us in the amount of kilowatt hours used. The key cost is the fact that solar is being billed to you from Scenic Hill, so you're not getting it free. Where the big savings would come is after the year of eligibility for us to purchase the solar panels and generate our own electricity. The cost that you see there under Scenic Hill Energy bill, which right now year to date is $31,000, that would be savings to you immediately to your bottom line, absent of a management agreement you have for them to maintain and help with the upkeep of the panels. You would enter into some kind of a maintenance agreement with some company, doesn't necessarily have to be that. But there is an upfront cost in that purchase price, and we can go into that as we get closer, but I'm monitoring where that money would come from and if that's still a good deal. Because the savings would be enormous if we generated our own electricity.
What is that year?
It's 6 years from the day we started, which was in 20, in contract. So, right about the time we had that sunset clause, 6, I believe.
Arkansas.
Yeah, that is a good one. You caught it.
Thank you very much.
Excellent job.
Thomas, what's the orange and blue lines?
That's the what?
Orange and blue lines on that chart.
Oh, yeah, the key wasn't there. The orange is the kilowatt hours that are generated by solar. The blue is the just write that in. So you'll see, starting in the month of April, May, and June, they generated more sunshine power than they did the actual coal power back to them. And solar credits that are unapplied up there is the $2,867 worth of credits that they are still holding as a credit, ABEC is, that they haven't actually assigned to a bill. So we take that into consideration when we come up with our net savings. We're a month behind in it. You'll notice we only go through June. That's because July bill just came in. So we won't be able to put those numbers together for these meetings normally because they're so early in the month. So that's why you're lagging 1 month behind where the segment is.
And, excuse me, Tom, the second array, Sonny, what's the latest on our second solar array?
They are in process now of putting the stands to support the panels.
Okay.
They've got everything cleared and moving forward. I think he said towards the end of this month, they should be producing, if not the first of next month.
That's the one by the dam, I believe.
That's
It's
what,
smaller, much smaller array. I'll get that online.
Should come on as the heat subsides.
Yeah. But that time.
Making good money.
Yeah. But it is Arkansas.
Well, that'd be correct, it's a swept coat, right?
yes.
Right, correct. Yeah. That'll take care of the other buildings that we own.
Swepco's is a little bit smaller than Arkansas Valley.
Quite a bit.
Quite a bit smaller.
And last but not least, I want to tell you that going on the fire theme, I guess, tonight, the fire loan in August for the property, which was a 5-year loan, has been paid off. And I hold the promissory note back to us. This will go on our files. No, you're not holding the burden. Get it?
That's solar. We did that once before, right?
I'm trying to
I'm under a fire.
punish you.
I'm under a fire.
I'm-
We're in
Burn ban.
We're under a burn ban.
But it is paid off. You'll notice on the balance sheet, you still have a balance there because that's through July, but this was paid off in August. So it is now in our hands, in our position. We only have 2 outstanding loans of fire department.
Which is the ladder truck
Both trucks,
and then the truck Jim was talking about.
the last one.
Not the ladder truck, it's engine 3.
Engine three.
Yeah, it is.
Get it right in transparency.
Engine 3. And actually, oh, one last thing is the flood-related expenses. I wanted to bring you to an update on. So far, we've had 51,000. I know of about 9,000 more coming in. That was related to certain buildings and property, which brings our total of 61,000 before the sewer lake issue. And we're thinking that's going to be around 100. So we're looking at the cost to be somewhere around 161,000. And of course, the dam stuff that I'm referring to for water sewer plant production, that's not flood insurance coverable. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to bear. So we're looking right now probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 160,000 today per calendar.
The 60,000 was just in the property right here.
It's all in the buildings that are here, the cars that were damaged, some surveys that were being done. Cars was a big part of this, the flood-related expense. We encourage to put big dumpsters out for the citizens. That's in this too. And that total is large. About $16,000 is that.
So a little over 40,000 just right here for our property itself, and then the dumpsters, and then we're expecting $100,000 of damage to the dam.
That was the estimate I got from Greg.
Great.
And that's about it. You'll hear more from you later.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions for Tom? I was going to tag on that discussion of the flooding a little bit. I don't know how many, if any, citizens are here that were affected by that flood over in the flood area. But I've had conversations with representatives with FEMA and then also with Wabadee to seek out a grant or to look into a grant, like Portsmouth is pursuing also to, with everybody's agreement, not as in going in and buying something that no one wants to sell, but Mr. Van Gorder, if it's okay to mention your name, I think he's the one that I talked to, he owns 4 or 5 homes over there, maybe more. The idea is that Portsmouth is doing it, and the idea is that you go in and you purchase homes in the flood area that continues to get flooded, and that money is to the city, it's a grant, 75-25, 80-20, 90-10, depending on what you can do. And we could possibly purchase the homes, we would remove the home and put them back into a park setting. And it also provides funding for those renters that are there. And this is fair market value, this is not trying to get a good deal. It also provides money for the residents that are renting those homes to be relocated over to Greenwood, but it's kind of a big package thing, so we're looking into that. And I've got a meeting with representatives from Western Arkansas Planning and Development District. They got Portsmouth's grant approved, so we're looking into that, see what we can do. Those folks, some of those folks are still out, and so we're trying to do all we can to get them either back in their home or maybe purchase their home. Get Tammy something else to put on her park list. So you get those parks. So anyway, just want to pass that out. Agenda additions, we actually have 2 this evening. With the council's approval, we add number 13, which is police. It's a resolution to amend budget, purchase police unit due to flood damage. And in conjunction with that, number 14 to the ordinance to waive competitive bidding on said police unit.
Three vehicles.
Oh, the 3 vehicles, sorry. Police units.
I don't want anybody to be.
Right. Okay. Council okay with that? Take that as a yes.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Old business, unfinished business. Number 1, ordinance authorizing water tap outside city limits on property owned by Farmers Bank. 3rd reading. You have that ordinance in front of you. Pretty good discussion on this for 1 reading or 2 readings, I guess. So,
I have a question. I wasn't here the first reading, the second reading.
okay.
In section 4, where it talks about the 25% surcharge, which we have in place, but this being an ordinance, if that 25% was determined at some point to be too onerous or not enough, would it not be better to leave the 25% figure out and just put a surcharge that is to be determined by the Water Commission? And if it changed, we don't have this ordinance problem? Or is that something we'll discuss?
Is the existing 25%
We touched on
its own ordinance?
it. Yes. Right? Yep.
So that, if that ordinance were to change, you have another ordinance that conflicts with it, or can you just put any conflict?
You could refer back to that one.
Yeah.
Would be surcharge per city ordinance.
That way you don't have to.
Yeah.
Surcharge per city ordinance blank and substitute that 25% for that
Yeah.
ordinance.
Makes sense.
So just change it to lead back to the ordinance.
Yes. And I don't know what that number is.
She probably got it.
And then the only other thing are they not able to come into are they not able to be annexed?
Mr. Bell, you touched on that. Can you?
No, they're not contiguous to the city limits.
So they can't come in of their own volition?
No.
That's all that.
Okay. You found that one? Not yet. Okay.
When I do,
That or attach it.
I'll
Refer back to.
yes, I'll reference it in
Okay.
section. I'll mark out the 25%, keep that wording, and say That's better.
And that doesn't number.
That's because then it's
You
still
put a
a
number, I
problem.
think we changed
It's
it.
still a problem.
And probably
Make a motion to approve the ordinance by title only. Second.
motion and second to approve by title only.
With the changes,
With the changes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Dick?
Yes.
Singletary?
No,
Lester?
Yes.
Passes by majority. An ordinance authorizing extension of water services to property located outside of the included city limits. The binding of extenuating circumstances is the same. And road closing.
Thank you. Number 2 is approval of water rights purchased for 35.96 acres of land at Highway 10, and, 71 in Timmsburg. We've tabled this previously a couple of times, I think. So what you have in front of you is a memorandum, and I believe Mr. Hamby will handle this through with Mr. Marsh. You haven't had time to read it. I would talk while you're reading, but that'll probably make you have sort of wait. You get the cover letter, thank you. Thank you.
This is the agreement that the Water Commission recently approved.
Correct.
By unanimous?
Mr. Tate? Yes. Mr. Tate Cole's here, the chairman, if you want to ask him questions regarding that.
Hey, Section 2, it says that Section 2, it said not to be less than $214,037. Why does that not say zero?
That's the bond amount.
So that's their bond amount. That was the amount that our engineer, Jeremy Shores, came up with after looking at their financials and their bond indebtedness, basically broken down by user and multiplied by the number of overall users that we would be taking over, which is 53.
So the 350,000, I assume, is what they think it's worth. We think it's worth somewhere less.
They think it's worth significantly more than that, but this is the amount that their board has
Said,
said that they would offer it to us at. Their number is like 625,000 or something like that.
so if we agree to this, we're agreeing to that second line. We don't know what it is, but it's somewhere in between those two. Somewhere in between $214,000 and $350,000.
Correct.
Will be, y'all will settle out with.
Yes.
After, okay, after arbitration.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And the arbitrator would be the Arkansas Department of Natural Resources.
It would be selected by them.
And that information was from our meeting with Arkansas Natural Resources that came here and spoke to a handful, not a board, because it was a public meeting. So it was Mr. Cole and myself and Sonny and people within the city. And in case Mr. Brown was here representing, right? Yes. Representing council as a liaison on water wastewater.
And the 36 acres that we're purchasing water rights to, it's all that corner at 10 and 10, at 71 and 10 Spark
Yes, sir.
on the north side of the road. So we go all the way to, is that Quail Run,
Cedar Valley.
Cedar Valley?
Yeah, Quail Run is back behind that, but yeah, Cedar Valley is what borders it on the north.
Okay. And how far towards the city do we come?
You know, I'm not 100% sure exactly where that comes to, but it, almost down there, pretty ways towards.
Rockside.
Rockside?
Oh, are we talking
No.
about with the 53 users?
No,
or
you're just talking about
36 acres?
Who owns the property, Mr. Burton, there next to you?
Is that Miss Ibsen?
Yeah, I guess it was.
Yeah. I think
Thanks
it's
to
Pat
the-
Ibsen, where the storeway, the green, storage units are there.
Right.
I believe that.
And come all the way to Hillcrest?
No. Where Hillcrest and Rockside come into this is they are the two roads that are the 53 water users are primarily on.
This 35 ends basically where, at the hill.
At pretty much that slice, if you will, right? Or I call it slice.
Mayor, can I talk about this a minute?
Yes, sir.
There's been a lot of discussion about this. I mean, we've talked about this, I don't know how many times at council meetings. My first response was, and this council's response multiple times was, Jacob went out there and started digging outside the city limits, so we're not voting on anything. And I think that's probably the right move, honestly. I mean, it's not inside the city limits, so I think that's the right move for us to make. We have discussed for years, you know, Sonny, we want you to go up and annex the corridors of the highway. Out 10, up 71, 300 feet. We want to annex this land, we want to develop the commercial corridors so that we can have economic development. And, you know, there's a lot going on with this, and I just kind of want to unpack it, I guess, in my own mind, that, you know, Jacob voluntarily came and said, I want to annex the property. So we checked the box. And I think we got to eat this like the elephant, you know, one bite at a time here. And it seems to me the next natural step in this is this water rights issue, and, you know, what are you going to do about that? And, you know, then there's a lot of discussion to be had down the road. I mean, to my knowledge, Sonny, you don't have anything in your planning department that says this is what we're going to build. I mean, there's nothing that's been brought to the planning department that says we want your approval, send us through the process,
No,
right?
We don't have a construction plan, you're right.
Okay. I mean, you know,
We have a conceptual plan, you know, of the,
are we going to lay a sewer line and a water line? Is the planning department going to approve that? You know, what happens with the 53 customers? All of those things are discussions that have to be had later. I mean, you know, it seems to all be getting mixed up, to me, in various conversations, that this is all getting mixed up in one thing. And I think we got to kind of step our way through this. You know, let's deal with this water rights issue right now. And then we may or may not run a water line under that highway. You know, how that goes is to be determined based upon whatever happens here, you know. But, you know, I've had people call me and say, you know, you're trying to do something that enriches a developer for a piece of property by doing this. Well, maybe, but, you know, if you're going to have this discussion about annexing the corridors up 71 Highway or 10, out 10 and 10 Spur, you're going to enrich a homeowner somewhere along the way. I mean, you know, Buddy Lloyd's part of the East Village. We sat here as a council and made a decision to do something to allow East Village to go forward. I would expect they hope to make money at that. I mean, I don't see that being a deal breaker or news that a property owner's going to make money on the property. So I don't see that being valid, but I don't know. I mean, I just wanted to unpack this a little bit and say, look, let's try to deal with this one thing at a time.
Could I be recognized to?
Yes, sir. Tell us who you are.
Take total, sector 27, Roxbury.
Thank you. See you right here. Thank you.
So a couple of things that, and this, I don't need to jump ahead, but I think this is germane to the conversation. This is a separate agreement or resolution that has been brought about from the county relative to the county library going out there to the curb, okay, and what the request from the county is. Basically, I'm sure you guys have seen this, talked about it a couple of times, but it's the $167,900 request to basically get water from where it stops right now along 10 Spur at Tractor Supply over to the curb. All right, that's the county's request that the city put a little skin in the game, if you will, and get that over there. That being one issue. I'll come back to that in a second. The second issue is this that you have in your hand that we started this whole conversation relative to the purchasing of the water rights from James for the 36 acres and also the 53 water users. So those two things kind of couple together. You need to understand from a water commission standpoint, AC, I think I vouch for this, we didn't ask for the 53 water users to be a part of this, okay? We did ask that or I guess we approached James Fork about the curb and purchasing those water rights. From their standpoint, they would like to get rid of the 53 water users, of which I am one of, in full disclosure, so they want to kick me out. So from the standpoint of the curb and getting that developed, as it relates to this, would I like to see us purchase the water rights and clean this up? Maybe. I mean, to be quite candid, I'm not jumping up and down and go spend the city's money to purchase those 53 users. I think it would make sense for us to do it out there, but James Fork is the one that owns that right now, and so they get to dictate a little bit of the terms, right? But beyond that, so if you decide to do that or you don't decide to do that, then Mr. Burton and his property can still get water, perhaps, from James Fork. But the real key to the development is in this, and us getting fire suppression over there to that property. We got sewer on it right now. There's sewer that sits there right now. We can go and read James Fork's meters and charge them sewer rates and all that. So if we don't want to put drinking water, potable water there, that's fine. But as a citizen, so not as a water commission member, I want us to do this to get that over there so that we can start development on that. He can start development, not we, I don't have anything to do with it. He can start development on that. And to Daniel's point, all of that can start to take shape, and the front of our city can start to look like the front of the city, how our city, I think, should look, hopefully. Hopefully he's going to get that done. But this is the key element to it. Us getting fire suppression over there, because we've all heard about Brahms. Brahms isn't coming without fire suppression. They're not going to, the county's not going to help him dig one scratch of dirt out there without having some fire suppression over there. And this is what we can do to make this happen. Again, whether or not we buy these water rights or not, this needs to happen for this project to move forward. And so I think, when you think about it, and Mr. Marsh can speak about the financial impact of that development going on out there and what it would mean to the city in terms of tax revenue, it could be a boon to the city. It really could. And $167,000, if you just put some round numbers to it, we could recoup that in not a real long period of time. Plus, it's an investment in the county library system that is going to continue to pay dividends to the city for a long time. So, that being said,
Here's the question I got, and I'm not opposed to that. My question is, if the county has approved all this money for this library, but we have yet seen a site plan, We ain't seen nothing to where we need to put the water. And have we even got the clearance from the state to go under the road?
We're not putting it to the library.
No, I'm just saying, but even putting it on that side of the road, we don't want to put it somewhere it don't need to be, is what I'm saying, the hydrant, the fire suppression.
And to your point, the conversation has been had, and Mr. Burton, or Ms. Garner, they can speak to this, but I was in a meeting with him earlier today regarding this, and I know that he has engineering. If you'd like to speak on this further, Dick, would be my guest, but he has engineering for the site and the elevation and all that should be to us within the next, what?
Should be
10 days? 10 days.
10 days.
10 days.
And I'd like to see that.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? That's something I feel like that we as a council ought to be able to see before, because I'm not opposed to getting water across 10 for the fire suppression to support this, but it'd be nice just to see that we're know for sure that it's all getting engineered and gonna get done right. I'd like to see something in black and white other than, and that's the county's proposal for us to spend $166,000.
I will defer to Sonny.
But as you know, when we get these engineer drawings in, we meet with the department heads, they look at this, and if they approve it, then I bring it to you for your approval. That's when you see the construction plan. Before, we've got to have the promise of this fire protection on this property before the Brahms or whoever, the library, starts bringing in their construction plan. You know, when we annex any property, the first two things that we promise during the annexation is police and fire protection. And this document that Payne is showing you is our promise to the county that we're going to put in fire protection for the library. And yes, Brahms will be able to take advantage of it too, but that's true in any type of expansion. But once this starts the wheels rolling. Then we start getting site plans, plot plans showing us where, when, and how the buildings are going to be located. Then we get the construction plans. Once that's all been approved by the planning commission with the approval of the department heads, then that's when it comes to you for your approval.
I understand all that, I'm just trying to figure out, you said something though, that along with annexation, we provide police and fire protection. Well, out Highway 10, where our water line stops, in that church in Edgewood, we got 21 homes down Highway 10. It's been annexed to this city for what, 7, 8, 10 years? Mm-hmm. And we haven't dropped the ball to get them fire protection.
We don't have a water line within 200 feet of those houses.
But it's the principle of what I'm
Yeah,
getting.
but in this case, we have a water line within 250 foot of the property over there, the curb, and to be able to put a fire hydrant there to provide fire protection for the Brahms, the library, and anything else that comes through there.
Just out of curiosity, was there a map provided of water rights at that meeting?
No. The engineer for James Fort did say that he had filed a water plan back in the early 2000s. But the gentleman, Mr. Benfield from the NRCA, did mention that that was before, he wasn't taking issues with it, I want to be clear about that, but that was before the formal process for water plans that are now in place. So there's so many different maps between health department maps and this, that, and the other, that's it's still a little bit, they would take it, there would have to be a formal hearing in order for them to go out there or a formal request and then public hearings and all that, for them to go out and say yes or no one way or the other.
But Arkansas Natural Resources seemed pretty clear that that was James Ford.
Yes.
Yes, and the first question that I proposed to the gentleman from ANRC was, and I did it in front of everybody, I told James Fork, I'm not doing this because we don't believe you, but I said we would make sure that we're buying something that belongs to you, not anyone. We don't want to be buying something that nobody owns.
And Tim came up with a map that shows the water compliance plan. Tim, you remember what year that was?
It's 1999.
1999, and it did show the Burton property, the Curve property was in James Fork. Now, I've got 4, maybe 5 maps, and some of them show yes, some of them show no, but this one is a registered map with the legal description, and I tend to think that that's probably the true map we've all been looking for. And again, it does show that the Curve property is in James Fork.
So if we pass, so number 1 deals with our commitment to the library and to the county. Number 2, and number 1 also gets us access to additional sales tax dollars in the future. Is that correct? Number 2 really just deals with that kind of, not no man's land, but a little tract part that James Fork alone that you live in, Tate, right? And there's really no sales tax generating businesses that would ever be in there. What would happen if we pass this document without 2 in it? What does that do?
You're only agreeing to negotiate. You're not agreeing to buy.
So the number will actually come back around.
No.
The actual number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have to
So
come back here.
Right.
So
Yeah,
in
yeah,
one-
you can turn down the counter
I
to
mean,
the
if their
counter.
offer's $380,000.
Unless it goes to binding arbitration in the
Yeah,
ordinance.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you do approve this, then this is, you got a good faith to go negotiate for 90 days on that, and after that, goes to arbitration.
So-
Now,
So that what it forces, if you will, I don't like that word, but what it causes is to finally, as we've all been talking about for years, I think, is to come to let somebody be the middleman and decide what's fair for both parties. This is finally getting to that, and that's what ANRC had offered. And by the way, let me say this about that meeting with ANRC. They were very quick. And I had to apologize to James Fork. I did it 4 or 5 times. I'm still doing it. Saw Downey last night at Oak Lincoln, and I'm still apologizing. Only to the fact, because we believed, I believed, I don't know if you believed, the first discussions about all of this, that we were going to be forced, it was going to be suggested that we annex 53 users within 5 years. And if we didn't annex, successfully annex within 5 years, which by the way is only 2 shots because you can only annex every 2 years. If we failed in that, this route got a little ridiculous, we believe, is that if we failed in that, and that's if we bought it, went ahead and bought it, tried to annex, we failed, it would that plus any improvements we made revert back to James Fork. ANRC said, I don't think so. It's illegal, we believe, plus that's not happening. They would not allow that. So that's off the door. That's off the door. And the other one was, what? There was 2 things that just lost it. I mean, what was it? That one, what was it, Cheryl?
You're talking about the ANRC, what they did say?
Struck 2 things.
Well, one was
Sorry,
that,
Cheryl Garner. You mind?
one was that the ANRC said that James Fork could not do that.
Right.
The other thing they said was that they saw no problem with Greenwood delivering fire suppression
Right.
to that site. They said that wasn't in question at all with the
Yeah,
ANRC.
and we can just go ahead and
And there were a couple of mechanisms proposed, one of which you have before you. The other option to that is to separate the 2 with the water plan compliance or plan. And they sort of led us a little bit to believe that they would separate the two.
Yep.
They didn't come right out and say it, but they did say, if you want to separate these two, you could submit a water plan compliance to the AMRC to separate these two issues.
Sir?
One other was
I know
having
that-
a policy or an ordinance that says that you cannot provide if it's not annexed into the city.
Yeah.
They.
Oh, yes, thank you.
That was
That's huge.
legislative
That's a big important thing.
And they told us why. So.
They are encouraging us, you as council, to reconsider the ordinance that we have in place to not, to completely disallow. Although our ordinance doesn't, it gives you leeway. It does give you leeway at the bottom to provide water outside the city limits, which that's not the issue of this, but they did, they made that pretty clear because of Mr. Burton.
But it is for 53.
53 it is.
So, wait a minute. Arkansas Natural Resources encourages us,
Not to have an ordinance that says you will only provide water if they're annexed into the city.
That's correct.
so that thing we just voted on.
And I wouldn't have a problem getting rid of it as long as we're charging them more. They don't have a problem with the 25%.
They don't have a problem with the surcharge.
See, we added that 25% just several years ago.
They didn't have a problem.
They
I'm like,
understand the
come
surcharge.
in, if you want to pay 25%, let's
They-
see to it.
They gave us examples of how they ruled against the city for that because of that restriction. There was several of them that they gave, and they can give you even more information on it. They did ask us to make you really relook at that.
He did that in the meeting, and then he pulled me aside after the meeting and said, I encourage you, Mayor, to encourage council to reconsider.
We can get you more information on the wheres and whys.
I personally don't have a problem doing away with it. I mean, as long as we continue to charge them more. That gives them incentive to come in. You know, Shadow Lake will save a lot of money if they ever decided to come in. They're sitting outside.
They also talked about if you go outside and service an area that's not annexed into the city and you need to do improvements to it, they didn't use the term impact fee because there's an issue with that. You know, that there's a guideline as to how you're supposed to set that up. But you can assess them for those improvements to get them water to service them outside.
That was our justification with the 25%. It was
Right.
because of all the expensive repairs we're doing out at Shadow Lake.
But
So if
the
you,
assessment would be directed to what the cost is to the development that you're looking at providing water to. That cost will be different no matter where you are. It's not going to be the same. So 25% is on the actual usage of water.
Right.
So you gain more if you just said, here's the cost, and if you want it, this is what
Sure sounds
Oh,
like.
so this thing that we just voted on, that piece of property outside the city, if we had to go make some repair to that water line, whatever, we could assess that property owner for that line?
I don't know exactly what you're talking about. If it's outside the city limits.
Yeah.
Talking about the farmer's bank, that property.
You could. That's, would you, and do you have a mechanism in place that would show that you're allowing that?
That's what they were saying.
That we don't have in place.
Right.
You
Tom, you in another meeting, so the last couple of months, talked about this $79,000, the payback of that. Can you say that?
Right, based on what the average annual sales, all sales from that one standalone bronze, it would generate enough in city sales, county sales tax, and sales taxes to repay or recoup the $79,000 in 1 year to the city. Now, if you're looking at recouping it back to the water department, then they're only at 1% of that, so it would be 2 years in actual sales from bronze for them to recover that entire water rights fee.
That 1 year includes the A&P portion.
No,
It doesn't include A&P.
no. A&P would only be on the prepared food sales, and you know they have a market, fresh market. It's total, just sales tax, just county and city sales tax. The city would generate enough, they would generate enough in that tax back to the city in 1 year, based on their sales, their average sales for all of them. Now, you can do the math, and I'm going to spit out that number because it might be proprietary, but we know what they generate without it.
I think Mr. Van Gorder had a question or comment a minute ago.
very quickly. About 4 years ago, we were awarded a contract from Lowe's to produce now 6 of their private label cleaning products nationwide. It's a big deal. So we immediately set out to find a place to build a brand new facility that was bigger here in Greenwood. Actually, Cheryl helped me on that search to try to find some land. What we discovered is there's nowhere. There is nowhere for us to develop in Greenwood now because James Fork has the water rights and we don't have fire suppression. You know, Stuart told me, I'd love to let you build a factory, but, you know, building a chemical factory, even if they're safe chemicals and not flammable, building a chemical factory without a sprinkler system is not going to happen in my town. And I don't blame him. You know, but the thing is, commercial buildings that are going to house X number of people, and I don't know the numbers, the guys in the fire department would, but commercial buildings that will allow X number of people have to have fire suppression. So my point is this: if we want to grow, we have to. We have to do this. If Greenwood wants to grow, we have to do this. And there is a faction of people, not necessarily people on the council, I wouldn't know their opinions, but there's a faction of people that say, hey, we're a great little bedroom community of Fort Smith and we'd like to keep it that way. Well, that's fine, but you're about to put in 251 more families in addition to, you know, people that are moving into town that are buying houses that are for sale and stuff like that. And they're still all gonna have to go to Fort Smith to get a decent stay. Or they all gotta go to Fort Smith to go to a decent library. Or basically we gotta go to Fort Smith to fill in the blank. So if we want Greenwood to keep up with the times, not even grow, just to keep up with the times, we have to do this. Because I've done the search and there isn't anywhere, there's nowhere to develop. The James Fork doesn't own the water rights. And James Fork has categorically said, we provide drinking water, period. We will not provide fire suppression. I had that conversation with them. So if we want to grow, we have to.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I want to piggyback off of what Mr. Van Gorder said. My name is Joanna Brandt. I own Raglan Roses at 100 North Main Street. I absolutely think that developing out there on 71 and Pennsburg is a great idea. Fully support it. And whatever needs to happen to make that happen, I think it's a great idea. I think it will be great for the city of Greenwood and for the progress that I do think that many people in Greenwood would like to see. But I would also like to encourage the city council and the city of Greenwood to also consider in that decision your current businesses that have been here and they're working hard and they're doing all the things that we can do to also support and grow Greenwood. For instance, where my business is, in that one little block, we've got 5 businesses, we've got 6 parking spots. There's I think there's maybe 4 on the side of my store, but the amount of times that I see people come, park in front of my shop, and then walk over to the chiropractor, or walk down to the coffee shop, which is, it's amazing that we cannot continue to grow and thrive if we are not helped out with the bare minimum of what we need to do so, possibly in order to do something prettier and shinier and newer. Do I think that needs to happen? Yes. Do I think it will have a positive impact on the current local businesses in Greenwood? Absolutely. Do I think that we should get pushed aside, again, for something shinier and newer? I don't. So I think when you're making these decisions, I would love for you to consider the needs of your current businesses that have, you know, not just survived through the last 3 years, but have thrived. And again, just help us out with the bare minimum. I just want a parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joanna, we've discussed that building a parking lot right next door to your business, and we kind of told the mayor.
Yeah, I mean, there's already plans made up. And again, this is, I don't come to a lot of these meetings, but this is the second one I've been to that, Mr. Marsh, please correct me if I'm wrong. What I heard when he goes over the finances, that there's some extra money that people weren't planning on having with no idea what to do with it. And I can give you at least one suggestion. And if, sorry, one thing, I know that we talked about wanting to do parking lot and pocket park. Again, great idea. Give us the parking lot first. The holidays are coming. We're going to have more people shopping. We do draw people in from outside of Greenwood. Please give us the parking lot.
Thank you. I'm John Betty, 112 Governor Back Street. I'm also on the Water Commission. As far as buying the water rights curve of 110%, I'm looking forward to that. Buying the other 53 customers, there's some pros and cons. You know, I mean, if we pass it, plan on us buying it in 6 months. Because that our buying arbitration market, that's not the end of the world. One time we had a thing, we had to extend our contract for 20 years to change forecast. What hard work was that? And that seems to be gone, which is a good thing. You may have heard that Fort Smith's bring the water lines maybe getting pushed back. We've got two major things for growth from a water perspective. Getting service area and getting a water source. And I'm not sure which one's more important, they're both important. As far as getting construction drawings, plants are 110% right, but that's when we start figuring how much we're going to pay for putting pipe in the ground. They're just buying the area, we don't need that yet. When we start figuring who's going to pay for what section of pipe and where, we'll need that definitely. You're also right when you look at where this 10 spur, when you look down in Denver, on Highway 10, try to get those service rights, but also need to find a source of water, otherwise that's a big waste. But, you know, buying the service area out there at 36 acres, I think it's a no-brainer. The other 53, there's pros and cons. If James Force really wants to sell it, get a loan, we can do with that. But we need to look down further south, and we need to find some source of water.
So the arbitration for the 53, that's going to come back to us with a figure.
Yeah, between those two amounts.
And then we can say no or
no.
pass.
Finding arbitration, you can't say no.
I can't say no.
That's
whatever
right.
it is.
Plan on us getting those other 53 customers in 6 months at a price between $214 and $350. I mean, it's not 100%, but it's probably over 90%.
Now, one thing too that I've heard that maybe Kate can correct me there on this, or Mayor, but with the Arkansas Natural Resources Commission, they were saying that once a city annexes property, then that city has a right to serve that property. You know, and if it can't be agreed upon, then that's where they come in with binding arbitration. You know, they said, you know, you still have to maybe acquire those rights, but you do have a right to service that area.
They said we have the right to purchase the water rights.
Yep.
We can buy them. We can go to them and say, we would like to negotiate with you to buy these rights because we now have them annexed into our city.
Right.
But they didn't say it would go always to binding arbitration. What they offered us was their engineer and Jeremy Shores, ours, are going to sit and get a number hashed out within a 3-month period of time. Because it was said that the two smartest people in the room are sitting right there. They feel sure that they can come up with a number that everybody can agree on. I've already come up with a number. I have their audited financials now. I got that when Jeremy was here and we had that meeting. So I know what the max number should be based on their numbers that they provided us. I can tell you it's less than what they're offering right now. But we're prepared. We do have a number that we want to throw at them, you know, in cooperation with Jeremy Shores, to see if it's amenable to them. It is in between those two numbers, and we have a rationale for it. So I'm just saying everybody's already going to the binding arbitration. I don't think we're going to get there. I think we're going to come up with a number much sooner than that. And they were very amenable to that. We didn't think they'd fight on that binding arbitration, but they did. They said, yeah, that's fine. We get a third party in there. Jeremy and I feel very, very good that the independent appraiser will see that the number's a little high. We think there's some numbers that they have in there that they're looking to cover lost revenue over a period of their remaining debt years. And that's not feasible. We do know that the number they asked us for was their debt on the last two debt instruments that they had, the last two bonds that were issued, a 10-year period. And we used future value calculations and we came up with the exact number that they were putting in to say, this is what we think you owe us. And it's over a 10-year period. Now, we're going to counter with them with a different number of years because we don't believe that we should be paying for their lost revenue over their remaining years of debt. So, I mean, that's where we're off. We're off on the lost revenue for the 53 customers, and we have differences in our calculations based on the numbers.
Are any of these 53 customers currently in the city limits?
Yes.
Yep.
There's about 4 or 5, I believe.
Tate, on this agreement, council, say tomorrow you go and council passes water rights agreement. James, of course, says, great, we're shutting the water off next Wednesday. Good luck. That's not in the plan. What's the plan for transitioning this to the Greenwood water system?
Well, I think that would be with Tim Posey and his department.
So Tim, they shut off the water next Wednesday. What's
Come
the
on,
plan?
water to the city.
Water to them.
To the 53 customers.
We really need water line across the road. Once water lines across the road, we can make temporary connections. We can cut them loose. You're talking about the 53 customers?
Right. Yeah, I'm talking about the 53 that need water. What's the plan?
Why would they do that?
Why would they cut
They're
it?
not likely, they're likely to give us time, but that would have to happen. And we wouldn't necessarily have to lay new pipe. We could use existing pipe, and it would be simply an interconnection into our pipe, and then cut cap their line.
So how much time do you think they'll give us?
They'll give us all that we want. I
Yeah.
mean, I think a reasonable time.
They're selling us the water. So,
Yeah.
it's coming to us through the ground.
Some pain for them.
They're going to be like, don't cut out line.
No. Talk about cutting your, what's the term?
I don't know.
We do need a water line across the road.
That's the whole point to the monitoring of the whole deal. We're already buying
We're
water.
already buying water. And we do have that factored in our.
We're gonna spend $247,000 for buying these water rights that I'm still disputing and have for 15 years. And then another 167 for the line to go 283 feet, so that's about 247 grand. So in essence, the city of Greenwood is just a big lift station for James Fork Water. Because they cannot, it's not that they don't want to bring you fire suppression, they cannot do fire suppression up here. Unless they put about 13 lift stations from there to here to fill up a pipe that's 12 inch that's supposedly on site. So it's not they don't want to, they cannot.
They don't do, they're not required.
Right.
They don't want to, even if they
Yes.
could. There are areas that they could provide.
So if that whole curve was developed right now, just sitting there waiting for water, they would never get it, as it sits.
Fire protection.
Fire protection. I mean, if everything was built to specs and the water sprinklers were in, the hydrants were all laid out, it was just like the picture of the rendering, it would never get any fire suppression water at all. Unless they came to ask the city of Greenwood. And we can do it.
Yeah, but he's not gonna build that. He can't do that without fire suppression.
And that's, going back to Lance's point earlier, you can't get out of neutral.
Well, I'm thinking backwards. I'm saying, I mean,
Here's the thing, Mr. Bailey suggested, and I'm all for it, we're gonna widen Highway 10. Very soon. And when I say very soon, that may be 5 years, that may be 7 years. RDOT is gonna widen Highway 10 after they build the new road across Dr. Burgess's property. Then they're gonna widen 10, phase 2, right? What is that property gonna be worth, and what's that gonna mean to us? And should we not absolutely be getting, I've already talked to RDOT. When we widen that, can we put the pipe in the ground? They said, that's when you better do it, because that makes sense. If we can't get past this, How long is it gonna take to do that?
Never gonna happen.
This is tiny. This is very tiny. This is smidgen. And we want to, Mr. Cole said earlier, or Daniel said it, we've been talking about annexation, and annexation for as long as I've been in office and as long as I was Parks Director. So we're going on 16, 17 years talking about this. And it is in front of us to accomplish. And we can't get over this little old hump.
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve this letter to be sent to James Ford.
Second.
I would amend this letter, to indicate that it's been approved by the council and sent to them on your cover letter.
Well, one question I have is, in the letter addressing that, it says, I think that second paragraph says, while the attached memorandum addresses the terms and conditions related to water rights, the city also recognizes the need to renegotiate the current water contract. And I was just wondering, is there any
That'll be changed, right? Because that's been decoupled from this conversation, right?
That's in the cover
The
letter.
reason it's not in the binding arbitration agreement, the agreement talks about water rights. And that's what we wanted to make sure, it was definite, it wasn't, as you said, vague. I had it in the original document that Mike reviewed, and we had a discussion about it. Yes, it's part of James Ford's, they want it. They said you have to, they wanted us to extend the current contract, and that's not a go for us. We wanted, and we told them in the meeting, you were there, you heard me say, that whole contract needs to be renegotiated. A lot of terms need to change, a lot of verbiage needs to be put into favor to both them and us based on the terminologies and what they had in there. So what we're going to do is we wanted them to know that that's a separate process. That's us buying water from them and the terms and conditions of that. That's not having anything to do with the water rights. But we want to know that we are going to negotiate a new contract. And it benefits us to do that sooner than later. I mean, when we negotiate that contract, we're looking at the take or pay. We're looking at the percentage and the rate structure as far as when they can increase rates. We want to take out some of the verbiage regarding the financing of their lake. A whole bunch of things that are in there that need to be addressed that would be in our favor. Right now, one of the things that's not factored into the price that they're asking us is the fact that if we go below 15 million, they're getting free revenue from us because we're paying for water we didn't buy and that they didn't provide. But they're getting that revenue free, and that's not factored in. They're only factoring in the cost of the wholesale sale to us. So.
Well, I guess going along with that, I mean, in the memorandum, we have a time period, of 90 days to discuss the purchase of the 53 additional customers.
How about we let them come back with if they want a time period on it?
A time period of what?
On the negotiation of the contract.
So we want
It would be in our favor to do it quickly. But it's a contract of that nature, that's going to take a lot of review, a lot of legal, involvement of both lawyers. That's a 20-year contract. It's going to have some significant impact to the city. We have to look at whether even what they have as far as the minimum or what maximums that they can afford to provide us is going to be adequate for our future needs. So that's not something you want to hurry through. So we didn't want to put the same time frame on that. But if they want to try to put one on it, they can come back and say, hey, I like your mitigation and binding arbitration. That's fine, but we want to put we want to make time as of the essence on the contract. So if they want to do that, I'm happy to, we'll bring it back and entertain it.
Well, I guess that's what I was wondering. I mean, is there anything where we can say, yes, we want to start, after this is done, saying, yeah, we want to start renegotiating the 20-year contract because there are things in there that are not advantageous to us. It is all advantageous. It's all on James Ford's side.
Well, the good news is that the current contract we have is going to stay in place until the new one is soon.
What you're asking, I think, Mr. Brown, is exactly what you were referring to. While the tax memorandum addressed the terms and conditions related to water rights, the city also recognized the need to renegotiate the current water contract for the sale of surplus water to the city of Greenwood. Both parties agreed to negotiate a new water purchase contract for a period not to exceed 20 years.
But he's wanting the time element there to get it done. And I don't want to necessarily put it on there.
They had tried to stick that in the original agreement, and I said no. And so I had it removed from that. That's the very reason Tom just indicated. This is going to be a very complicated mess, is what it's going to be.
And we don't want to
We're not going to be able to negotiate it, and we sure don't want to put it to arbitration at this point. So this just reflects our intent that we were going to do. Look at doing that in the future, but we're not bound to do anything. If we decide we're not going to go there, we don't have to. All we're doing tonight is purchasing these water rights to the property that was in question. That's what I wanted to do.
You got 8 more years.
Yeah, because we were, yeah.
But like I said, it's in both parties' best interest to negotiate the contract. Time is of the essence wise. So we're not going to delay it and drag our feet on that because there's a lot more to gain by sitting down at the table and hashing it out than not. And they know that, just like we know, they're pushing for it.
Well, that's,
So let me get this straight, just so I know. We're doing the 79,000 to buy the water rights, so we can put that line under the road, pretty much. To get water to that corner, fire suppression to the corner of that road is what we're working on.
yes.
And that's it. What about the 53
If you put the 79,000, you're getting all the water rights.
Right.
Not just fire.
Yeah, yeah,
That's, I'm just clarifying, it's all new, because I don't have a problem getting water to the other side of the road, I just want to make sure.
And you're agreeing that we're going to negotiate on the 53 in the next 20 days.
That's all right, but I'm just saying what we're going to talk about, spending money on $250,000 pretty much to do the line and to get the water rights.
We can put the line under the road regardless. I'm not recommending we don't buy the water rights. I'm saying that we can put the line under the road and fire suppression either way.
Right, but we're going to go ahead and buy the water rights for $79,000, that's how it goes.
So we want that sales tax revenue.
We just got to beat the hooves on the water, and I'm trying to.
We've already announced we're going to get the sales tax.
Gotta let this go. So I'm good with that, I just want to make sure that I understand that before we start doing vote and all that kind of jazz. Where we're at.
yes, sir.
My name is Buddy Lloyd, 130 Ridgecrest Drive. Mr. McDaniel brought me into this. And I actually don't have anything, I don't have a dog in the fight, but I want to encourage the city council to look at what Mr. Burton's property can do for the city of Greenwood tax-wise. It's gave us a black eye for all these years. And now we have the opportunity to run a water line and buy rights. And Tim and I have talked about this, and I know he hates water rights. But we have an opportunity tonight to get the ball rolling. And I'm asking you, the library has pretty much begged y'all to do it. Let's do it. Let's get it moving. Vote yes.
We do have a motion, a second to what?
Accept the memorandum.
Except the agreement for binding arbitration, we have the addition of council agreed to this and the cover it. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Tim Terry?
Yes.
Lex Terry?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you, gentlemen. I guess we did two, right? So number 3 is approval of agreement regarding extending water rights services for library.
Again, this is just to get the line under the street.
Yes, sir.
to the
The
property.
map, you have a map attached?
Yes.
Okay. The blue, Hunter provided this with me. I had to X, it didn't change colors. So this is, that red dot is the existing meter where the line ends. So I don't want to give you some, so we've been talking underneath, it is underneath, but we have to go from that red dot to the corner, then underneath. That's the extension we're asking.
Fire hydrant in the tractor plot.
Yes, sir. So it's 283.8 feet.
As Mr. Terry just said, I think we beat that book off this one here.
Sir?
As Mr. Terry said, I think we beat the hose off or something. I make a motion to approve that.
Second.
A motion and second to approve?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
McDaniel?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Lester?
Yes.
Yes, unanimous.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Number 4 is new business. City clerk orders to approve related party transaction with Mr. Jim Reynolds, outdoor first reading. This is something that we do when we interact or do business with anybody that is on either council or commission or is relative of, fair to say.
Much to my chagrin, I make a motion to approve this ordinance.
Second.
Motion second to approve.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Terry? Unanimous.
Thank you.
And ordinance authorizing the city of Greenwood to conduct business with Jim Reynolds Outdoor LLC for other purposes.
Hey, what business did we get in with Jim?
Advertising.
What's that?
You had your hand up. He want to know what business that we could hire you for.
It's advertising agency.
Okay. I knew that. I just want you to. I think, go ahead.
Well, may I, Drew?
Yeah, you can.
Then we get some free advertising.
Speak of it.
Jim Reynolds, 315 Old Excelsior Road.
Time's up. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing because I do talk to all of you, and I know we're trying to hurry, and I won't take them all, but one of the issues that was brought up in one of my conversations was, let's turn some dirt. Not just from one person, but from several people. Sean Whipper came to me the other night and said, when are we turning dirt? And they're ready. They're ready to spend $5 million, and the county is going to move the dirt, not Jacob Burton, the county. And so that's for the library. Okay, so that'll put everybody at ease. Who's moving that dirt? And they're going to move it just from point A to point B on that same property. So it's not like they've got to go far. So we can make a lot of aesthetic improvement by moving dirt and making it ready. So, so fire suppression, that's great. I know the fire department people are all for fire suppression, and so are the citizens. And I'm just glad that we're increasing our standard of living, and that's what the library, the county is going to do. I can't speak for the county, but I have had conversations with the county and JPs and that sort of thing. So thank you for your yes votes, and thank you for raising our standard of living here in Greenwood, Arkansas.
Thank you, sir. Number 5 is finance resolution to create restricted funds account. Oh, did I skip them? No, I didn't. Restricted funds account and amend budget for City Lake Bridge Trail project.
That's just exactly what it is. We had a request, a donation amount that came in. We needed to have the city rate, a restricted asset virtual checking account for the Parks Department, which is under the general subcategory of the general sub. And we labeled it City Lake Bridge Project as part of the trail system. And we have money that has been deposited in there, all donations go in that account, and then any spend from that is directed for those projects coming out of those accounts. We initially set up a budget of $8,000 for professional fees and $42,000 for the actual project. And that's what we're doing to satisfy the requirement that you approve all accounts.
So by establishing this, we're also approving the budget figure of $8,000.
42.
$42,000.
Yeah, the 50 that came in is now allocated. It's neutral.
What about the additional funding that comes in? We'd have to
Listed under section 3. You're allowing us to go ahead and budget it out as it. But what I'm really saying is it's a restricted. We can't use it for any other purpose other than for what it says.
make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Motion second to adopt.
Ron? And Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Daniels?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Ms. Herron? Unanimous. Back on the ordinance to do business with Jim Reynolds, are we wanting that to be on 3 readings? I meant to ask that, we just went on through.
I don't think
You got business with him right now? Okay. It could be on the group.
Well, we've done it already, it's like all the rest of them.
we're catching up. So whatever you want to do 3. All right. So what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is a Lake Trail Bridge that we got 10 years, 12 years ago when I was parks director. I encourage you to go out to the lake and look at the boat ramp area. You'll see what we're doing out there on construction. And hopefully soon, there'll be a 1931 bridge placed across that. What's that called?
Yeah.
Canal. So that's what we're talking. That's what we're talking about. And our goal, Lagoon Cove. So what we're talking about is something that's going to add. It's going to be amazing out there. And our goal is to make it look like it's been there since 1931. So moving on to number 6 is to amend budget for increasing capital improvements for City Lake Bridge Trail project.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
So in section 1, it talks about the trail being from Oak Street to Bell Park. Oak Street is,
No, wait, let me explain. They'll answer all your questions. That's what this says. Because this is a whole different thing. The first one that you looked at was donations of a restricted nature. The Parks Department was requested to see if they could contribute to the City Lake Trail project, to which the Parks Commission, they're here to actually address it, agreed to provide $160,000 redirected to the City Lake Bridge project for the bridge. But what they're doing in order to make it budget neutral is there is a capital item in their city sales and use tax budget for the paving of the trail from Oak Street back behind the, coming up into Bell Park. That was budgeted at $160,000, and the estimate that came back was well above that number. So they back-burnered that and said, we'll hold for a while, and they're redirecting that money to go to the bridge project. So it'll become part of their.
you ever heard of Oak Street? Are you not talking about Fox Run?
I think you're talking about the Oak subdivision.
Oak subdivision. You know
Oak
what
subdivision. Oak Street's up by the golf course.
They're going to pave that.
Oak Street's up by the golf course.
Oak Street's about a golf course.
Well,
The Oak subdivision.
Oak
It's
subdivision.
the subdivision.
The Oaks.
It's
Think
the-
we,
Okay, I'll
think
take
we correct street to subdivision?
How about this? Yeah.
And instead of being Oak singular, we make it plural? Is it getting at the Oak subdivision?
I don't think so.
Let's just refer to it as Oak
Oh,
subdivision.
yeah, that is, the Oaks.
Oaks.
Because in 20 years, somebody will be trying to figure out what the heck we did.
The Oak subdivision.
That's the way it is.
That's called the cart path.
Well, I thought maybe we'd actually refer to like a future plan we had.
I just took out.
That's long.
But that's what they're doing. They're redirecting that. And it's budget.
No, I have no problem with it. It sounds great. It's just the
Street.
street
Country.
Yeah, that is.
is several miles the other way.
We've got a bridge project that's got some private funding donated for it. So we want to reallocate some Parks Department funds from somewhere else to this project.
Parks is going to contribute to the
And some
project.
city funds.
And then take it over as a
get this out, or where we at?
You're asking the wrong person.
We have another five for waiving competitive bidding.
And the Parks Commission already approved it.
I make a motion to approve this resolution.
Second.
With the amendment.
Have a motion second to approve with the amendment.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Terry?
Thank you. Number 7 is approval of ordinance to waive bidding for City Lake Bridge Trail project.
Tom, didn't you take issue with the fact that this is an ordinance?
It wasn't just Tom taking issue with that, it was Mr. McDaniel as well when we were meeting. State law said that waiving competitive bidding is done by resolution, not by ordinance. But the city has an ordinance that you created that says waiving competitive bidding is by ordinance. So that's why you're getting all of these in ordinance form. I look back, I haven't found any yet, in my tenure of being here, of any waiving competitive bidding that didn't also have waiving second and third readings and an emergency clause, and it was passed on the first time. Because usually, when you do competitive bidding, your time is of the essence. And when you look at what a resolution is and what an ordinance is, I have the definitions here. Yeah, just to refresh your mind, a resolution is an expression of the will of the council. Resolutions are used to state the council's opinion on various matters. For example, supporting or opposing legislation pending in the Capitol. Resolutions usually affect items of a temporary or administrative nature, such as entering into contracts, approving purchases, entering into agreements. A resolution is an official expression of the council and may be adopted by the council at one reading. That's the resolution. This is a very specific, very limited duration. It's for one purpose and one purpose only, and it is expressing your will. That would be a resolution. An ordinance is a local law that usually regulates persons or property. It relates to a matter of general and a permanent nature, something that goes on, and it has anybody that comes in and wants to do this. It's kind of why you make an ordinance. An ordinance is more formal and authoritative than a resolution. Therefore, we recommend your city attorney approve the structure and contents of all ordinances. It doesn't say which one has to be ordinance, which one doesn't. The law does give you the leeway to make things more restrictive, which is probably why it remains an ordinance. But when you do an ordinance, and if you were to follow it without the waiving second and third readings and having an emergency clause, you are inhibiting or you are delaying or have the potential to damage the ability to city to effectively function. You're saying, well, we need this done. People are on hold, and they potentially could be on hold for 4 months until the ordinance works its way through. Or you're going to defeat the purpose, similar to what Mr. Daniel doesn't like, his emergency clauses. Really, this lends itself by definition by law as a resolution.
Tom, what state statute is it that you say it's resolution?
B 1458-303. And I'll read it. The governing body by resolution may waive the requirements of competitive bidding in exceptional situations where this procedure is deemed not feasible or sensible.
Our copy says by ordinance right here. in this.
Your copy does.
No,
The
it's
city.
state law.
Which one do you read?
I guess it's just a different, maybe they didn't change that. did
I
they?
know the one that just came out.
2018.
The 2018 copy says by ordinance.
2022, brand new law. Ready to- I've got your
Did they change it? Well, anyways, our ordinance says.
Because by doing it by ordinance, you're not keeping, you have the potential to delay the effectiveness and efficiency of the city to operate and function.
So what it is, we've done it like law says, but apparently they've changed the resolution when Tom.
Did you fix this?
Yeah.
We
so what he's saying.
can do it, and we're doing it by ordinance now.
Well, we can.
You can't change it until you change the ordinance.
So we need to put the ordinance up for the next meeting.
If you want,
Correct.
if you'd like to waive bidding by resolution.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a
We'll
lot
put it on the
simpler than
next
6.
agenda.
I will say this as it relates to this project. We're not about to write checks in the next 30 days for any huge amount. I mean, as Tom points out, we don't want to drag this out for 4 months trying to figure out what we're going to do here. But, you know, there's not invoices laying on Tom's desk that need to be paid or anything like that. There's no emergency. Yeah, there's no emergency here.
Is this area the bridge is going in the city limits?
Yeah, there is that.
Right there.
Yeah.
It's the lake.
Is that the city limits?
Well, it is, yeah.
It's owned
not
by the
annexed.
city. Huh?
It's owned by the city, but I don't think it's actually.
Are we working on fixing that?
We have been working on it. For some time, the title company has to give us a certification that we own the property. Their statement to me is that there's so much moving covered on the lots that are out there that it's taking them a significantly longer time to do what they have to do, that I can't proceed without certification.
So can we legally spend money on something that's not the city limits? We got watchdog folks in here for that. We're transferring
on your lake all the time.
Yeah, we spend quite a bit on it.
That's our water source.
You get off, I mean,
In the park, in the boat ramp.
and when you're not having to spend city. Right. Okay.
I'll make a motion, we put this on for first reading,
Second.
title only.
Second thing I got on this deal before we vote. So we're building a bridge over water for people to walk on, bikes to ride on. We got an engineering study somewhere we've done this, that people that are building are certified and insured to build a sturdy bridge. This isn't no Eagle Scout project.
No.
Let me give you an update on where we are at this moment. This week, I don't know, Doug, if you have heard anything about this in the last few days. Within the next week, either this fiscal week or next, the plan is for Homes, Kobe Homes, is going to arrange to pick up the components that are laying over here behind the street department, which is back here. They're going to haul those to a fabrication yard that Homes has over towards Lavaca. Part of that is to get escorts and all that. This thing's 90 feet long. Then we will have, to answer your question specifically, Randy Coleman, Nicolager Coleman, is working with us, mostly pro bono. Larry Schmalz,
I believe that's right.
who's an engineer, is working with Homes, Erection, Crawford Construction is involved. They're as far as driving piles and such, the cap blocks and all those things. Yes, there's some people way smarter than me with this thing. But as soon as we can get this thing moved to this site over here, there's going to be a meeting there on site. Everybody looking at this thing is 27 feet wide, and we cut down to 12 feet wide. How you going to do that? Where are you going to cut it? What are you going to do? Grab it to where the bolts go? How's the floor go? Blah, blah, blah. All that stuff. So that you can better nail down the budget. I mean, a lot of this stuff laying over ground up in bushes.
And the aesthetics is one thing, Terry, but the important thing to remember is this bridge allows the pedestrians, the cyclists, to get on the trail without literally walking on Mount Harmony Road. We're asking them to come out on this.
Right, yeah.
So this just gets on.
They did whatever,
Okay.
you know, they've done whatever engineers do to figure out this thing. Because there was a discussion at one point about, I don't know if that picture shows a middle
Column?
It shows there will not be a middle column. They determined that's not necessary.
And it doesn't look like
And it
that.
doesn't look anything like that either.
Do I dare ask how you possibly got an engineer to do anything pro bono? Long story. Well, the whole thing stinks, but whatever.
He was on the water committee with Tom Cutter.
You need to say.
Second.
Motion is second.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
McDaniel? Terry?
No.
Lance Terry? Passed by majority. I'll read it. An ordinance waiving competitive bidding for construction of pedestrian bridge at the city line, declaring an emergency and for other purposes. Y'all want to go through, do it in emergency?
What did y'all decide to move on this resolution? You can't do that because there's a city.
Decided to wait 4 months.
It'll be done too.
Second.
We'll still be trying to pass the second reading, aren't we?
You're gonna have to come back and change our city ordinance.
Did someone waive it?
AC waived, I second.
Motion is second. Wait.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
McDaniel?
Yes.
Terry?
What are we looking for?
Waiving the second and third readings.
That might as well, yeah.
Okay, unanimous?
Thank you.
We're waiting on Daniel.
Oh, that's
We're gonna keep the emergency clause
Well,
on.
this is the adoption.
I make a motion to adopt it.
Second.
Have a motion second to adopt.
Oh, is that Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel? Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Lance here?
No.
That's my majority.
Mayor, I just wanted to tell Daniel McDaniels I appreciate his initiative and his pushing this project. So sometimes it takes someone like Daniel.
And with that, I'd like to invoke the emergency clause.
Second.
Have a motion and second to vote the emergency.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
No.
Tim Terry?
No.
Lance Terry?
No.
Oh,
I'd
well, that's a tie.
like to do what I can do to say yes.
Okay, you'd like to pass the measure?
Yes, please.
All right, then it passes by majority now.
That's the main thing.
It's done.
Right.
Only,
You can't praise him because he.
You can, I'm allowed here.
all right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Moving on to number 8. Sir.
Just since we're thinking about changing ordinance to a resolution or like that, I think we kind of need to backtrack. With the memorandum, we talked about needing the ordinance to be changed about serving water outside of the city limits. I think that needs to be put on for next month.
Like to repeal it?
Repealing it.
Oh, what we're talking with our suggestion.
We'll get you also.
You want it?
What the recommendation was.
It's too late.
All right, moving on to number 8, the city attorney authorization to allow minutes of restitution and payments.
I'm not going to seek authorization to allow the remittance. This is the tree lady that we took $1,000 from. I thought that this loss has been paid. I received some inquiries. I visited with me. I got the attorney on the phone. He was advised that the young lady had lost her job and she was willing to pay out $100 per month. I'm not recommending that. And I was just going to give you an update that conversation had occurred. I'm going to tell the attorney that we need the money within 30 days or else we're just going to proceed with litigation and initially discussed.
And this is
on the tree.
And by the way, it was $50 or $60 a month as long as you pay, so just let the record.
Is that what she said?
Yes, that's what she told me.
Okay.
But I advised her that it would be taken to the city council for consideration.
I'm not recommending it was be more accepted to
I make a motion, we not accept that.
Okay.
I second.
Have a motion and second.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
I'm not cool with that, we'll do on this map over here.
Ms. Vaughn? It's not cool, but I have it.
Number 9 is Water Commission repeal and replace ordinance number 04-433, authorizing refund of water deposits, emergency passage.
Basically,
Yeah.
during Gary Campbell's administration, they decided to start refunding, we had all these deposits built up over years and years and years, and we decided, but the language in there specifically stated that they would refund it directly with a check rather than to the account. And we want to change that and refund it to the account for numerous reasons. One is keystroke. We've got manually, our new billing software, you manually have to push this stuff out, and then they have to cut all these checks. It has to be done once a year, and that's why we're asking for it to be done in an emergency passage, because it's due in August. So if we take 3 months to read it, it'll be next year.
What were we doing for the last 10 years while this ordinance was in place?
We've been cutting a check.
I know, but
It was a different system.
It was a different system, but it still wasn't good. It's the same amount of money.
we waited till August to change it, is my point.
Well, they didn't know it was a problem,
We're doing the best we can.
because the system doesn't give them the ability, this new system doesn't give them the ability that the RBS system did. And they just found that out when they went to try to do refunds of it, and they realized they have to go in and manually do it to every single one. And if you've ever, it's a lot of cost for us too, because we're having to cut all those checks, and we're having to validate the names, addresses, and the dollar amounts. It's pages and pages of refunds going out. When we contacted the company, because they asked me if it was going to cause any problem to my end, and I told them no, if you refund the money back to them on the next water bill. The company that they're using right now, but they said that they don't have any clients that cut checks for these. They all refund the amount of deposit on the next bill. So that's how it came up. It kind of caught them by surprise because they thought they had a means to be able to address it. But they
So,
didn't.
this isn't a deal about the people that we gave them some leeway during the COVID deal. Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, basically.
What's all this stuff in section 2 about from 2004 and all that? Is that changing the existing ordinance?
That's the same as the existing ordinance.
It's just being repeated here?
Yeah, because that's how it was.
I mean, is this the whole ordinance?
Yeah, it is. I know it's old dates, but that's how, it's, the very last one says and so on, you know, kind of gives an example of it.
That,
Each year thereafter.
if you pay your bill on time, 12 months in a row, you're eligible, you will be given your refund back. You will be refunding your deposit, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. You'll be given your deposit back, but you have to pay your bill. So some people may go many years because they were late one time without getting, so each year that number is a moving target, and there's a host of people that get cut a check.
You want to scrap all that out?
I make this motion we adopt this ordinance by title only.
Second. Motion second to adopt by title only.
And just on first reading by title only?
Yes.
So, just to put a ribbon on this, instead of issuing a check for the refund, we're going to put it in their bill.
Credited.
Credit.
Towards the reducing their amount due.
And it'll tell them it's, it was deposit refund.
There'll be no floating checks out there that haven't been ever cashed or anything like that.
Become part of the treasure hunt.
Some people don't understand that. That they're getting $100 just going in their bill, they won't see the money.
You know, we cut checks, we don't cut checks for below $1, but we cut $1.61 checks for these refunds.
Yes.
It's very costly to us, the amount of time just in our having to deal with it, both water office and us, plus the cost of the check. makes more sense to do it this way.
They'll be notified, correct?
Right.
On this process.
It'll say it on the bill.
Okay.
What it is.
I mean, not the letters saying here's what's happened, we'll just get credit.
Right.
Is there any way we could do that, or at least, I think the what,
We could, we need to go back and do what we're trying to get away from.
get the letter? Well, I mean, just a one time, I mean, just a,
It'd be one time every year. Next year.
okay, say we put it on
It's-
our website.
So
say
it's more or less, it'll be stated when they apply for water, that you're saying that if you paid in 12 months, or, you know, it'd be refunded to your, or credited to your bill. So
That's true.
Yeah.
So it'll be stated there.
People won't have it though, it'll be a credit, and then they'll work it off over the next.
But when they sign up, yes, it'll be explained to them, when they put their deposit up, that process will be explained to them. And it's not uncommon, this is the way it's done on most places, it's credited because of that, it's an accounting mess.
We have a motion second, Jim?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Lester? Unanimous.
I make a motion to waive the second and third reading.
Second. Motion second to waive second, third reading. I don't know why. Good
How
deal.
about,
Yes, sir.
I got ready to talk.
Oh, sorry.
An ordinance repealing and replacing ordinance number 04-33, authorizing refunds of certain water deposits, declaring an emergency and for other purposes. And Tim Terry gets gold star.
Gold Star?
All right, Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Lester? Unanimous.
I need a motion, well, I make a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Motion second to adopt.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Lester? Unanimous.
I make a motion to enact the emergency clause.
Second.
Motion second to enact the emergency clause.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
No.
Tim Terry?
Yes.
Lester? Passes by majority.
Thank you. Number 10 is A&P Commission, confirmation of Deborah Thomas to fill vacancy on commission. I think we have anybody. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You're good.
The A&P Commission is asking to confirm Deborah Thomas. She works over, she owns a restaurant over at, Pizza Hut.
What's the minute that he said? Gene.
So, A&P Commission is asking that you confirm her to fill the spot that was vacated from the manager of McDonald's.
I make a motion, we confirm Mr. Thomas.
Second. Have a motion and second to confirm Ms. Thomas to the commission.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Tim Terry?
Yes.
Lester?
Thank you. Number 11 is A&P Commission, also term renewals for A&P Commissioners, Mr. Tanner, Mr. McAllister, Mr. Powell, and Mr. Brown.
Mr. Tanner is from KMAC. And Mr. McAllister is at large. Powell and Brown are obviously the council.
Is that Brown as in you, AC? I make that motion.
Second.
Motion and second to renew the term.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Lester? Unanimous.
Thank you. Number 12 is finance, proposed retirement plan change to allow loans on vested employee retirement balances.
Good.
Sir?
Oh, goody.
Oh, goody.
There was a lot of interest in the fact that we have our retirement plan, according to Article 10, plan loans. It currently says participant loans, loans to participants shall not be permitted. We had certain individuals that were accustomed to this being a way of how they manage the plans in other places, inquire as to it, and we did an inquiry of our own to see whether this is something that our management team that works for us out of Little Rock has experienced in the past, and they pretty much said, oh yeah, it's very common. They provided us the, pretty much the layout of what they would recommend as far as what the law says, as well as what we should be doing from an administrative standpoint. We had a meeting, and at the meeting of the retirement board, came up with the fact that this is a doable, and we want to implement the plan change and have our lawyers draw it up and record it into our plan document. What we're basically saying is that you can borrow up to 50% of your vested amount to a maximum of $50,000. If you have $100,000 in your plan right now that's vested and yours, you can only borrow up to $50,000. Or if it's less than that, you can borrow 50% of whatever your vested amount is. Right now, the interest rate would be set at prime plus 1. Now, they have to pay that back through payroll deduction, and they can do it over a 5-year period, up to a 5-year period. It would be less if they negotiate a lesser term and they wanted it for a 3-year period, which just determines how we have to determine how much that would be, and our plan administrator would give us that. But the reason that it's 50% is that if they were to leave, they were terminated or they took it over retirement, whatever amounts remaining on the loan would be given to them as, if they were fired, for instance, it would be given to them as with a 1099, basically saying it's an early distribution from your retirement. They would pay taxes on that, and then that amount would be considered when they're refunded whatever they're vested or given their vested amount, less the amount that they took as early retirement. So it would be basically them paying themselves back with interest to the plan, to the actual plan itself. So the 50% protects us so that they don't ever have taken money out of the plan they didn't have. And the $50,000 is the cap that's established by law.
So 1099 is, they're going to have to pay, if they were fired.
Or they left on their own.
Yeah,
And they
left on their own
payroll.
They're going to pay the early withdrawal penalty as well. So they'll get a 1099. We're managing all this locally, I mean, through administration?
It's managed through our, but there is a cost to this, but it's passed on to the person taking the loan. It's $75, I think it is. Or you get a 1099 but it's $75 is what it would cost them. It costs the person taking out the loan, not the city. We're not adding
$75 one time, that's it.
Right.
And this is money that, is it city's pension plan, not like money they're investing like 401k, it's not?
It's money, it's the 7.5% that the city gives to all city employees at the end of the year for them, for their retirement. But it's only, you can borrow on the vested portion, the amount that over a 6-year period gets vested to you. So it becomes your money when it's vested or when it's vested. So it's their money. We don't have any right to take it back, it's theirs. Now, we're allowing, the plan is allowing them to borrow against it, but we put the safeguards in there. That won't impede or impact any other people's monies that are in there, because it's a pooled amount. I think it's a good plan. There's a lot of people that are anxious to take that opportunity to do some things that they've always wanted to do with their money, and it kind of keeps them in here if they're doing forward. It's an incentive to stay, and it gives them the opportunity to take out a loan and pay themselves back with their money. It's not our money that they're paying it. They put it right back into their retirement.
Pretty good incentive to be hired too.
Yes, it is. It does not apply to the police or fire.
Do they, is there a number, are they restricted to a number of times? Can they have 2 loans at the same time?
You're right.
One loan, they pay it off, and they get another loan.
Our retirement board said it would, you can do, there's no law that says you can't do more than one, but it's an administrative nightmare, is what we were told. And it would be because you would have different terms, you'd have to make sure we're putting it into the payroll correctly. We said one, and it's up to us to decide that in our plan document. We're doing one loan at a time. Once you get one paid off, then you can take out another one. There's also an opportunity for you to do, if you're borrowing for purchase of a home, your term can go higher, can go up to 15 years, but we've elected not to address that. We're doing only the 5-year, we're not doing anything in there about what you're using it for.
So just 5 years only, so we can strike this 15.
You said the max was $50,000.
Correct. Not gonna buy a home. but
Right.
If you use it towards the purchase of a home, your term can go up. Your term, the length of time your loan is out. But we thought that would be a little dangerous. If you go out 15 years, people may not hang around that long, and we thought we want to give you options to take out small loans and allow you to pay it back within your term of the loan.
You gotta go over and stand in the parking lot, look at the age of them walking in and out of the buildings.
So we can strike, we can strike the 15 to 20 years for a home line.
Excuse me?
We can strike could go up to 15 to 20 years for financing.
This isn't what we're putting in the plan document. This is
That's
the-
minutes.
This was
From
the
our
minutes that
discussion.
we talked to them about. But at our meeting, the
Retirement committee.
retirement committee meeting,
Tim, this second paragraph shows what we agreed to do, so read that.
we part of
If you
it.
have any issue with that, that's what we agreed. It doesn't include how many.
One per time.
One per loan, one loan at a time.
Yeah, that's good. I would recommend doing it. It's good.
We don't care what you do with it.
It's not
Pay off the consolidated debt.
That.
No, one at a time. You have to pay it off. That would be taking a second loan on the first one. No, one at a time.
I make a motion, we adopt this proposal.
Second.
Have a motion and second to adopt the proposal?
Is it second by Roy?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Let's hear it.
Thank you. Number 13 is the police resolution to amend budget, purchase police units due to flood damage.
Now, we'll say that, I don't know if Tom said it, but y'all approve this, just go forward, and then we're gonna bring back the official change to the plan document for y'all to look at. I might have been in another.
I don't know if I did, but yeah. There you go.
Mayor, Councilman Sterry, Mr. Hammond, before I get into that, I'd like to, if you're okay with the address of council.
Yes, sir.
Last week, I think it's obvious I'm very passionate about the department, the city, our students, and I let that be the best of me, and I apologize for that. I would like to explain something as a department head, look in at the council as a department head, and I'm going to be honest with you. I would like nothing more than to have a meeting with Richie, Joey, and Brad, and know that what we discussed, we're making decisions for the department over there, and know that they're in there making that decision, and know that I come over here and I've got 3 votes already. And you know, that's part of my frustration. I also want to know another thing that is a situation at the department. Let's say that we go to an accident, and those police officers go into the car and they pull this person out of the burning car. Well, my police officer is making $17.41 an hour, but a volunteer is going to show up and make $25.79 an hour. And to know that they're risking their lives as much as the volunteer, they're not getting paid the same. So that's 2 things that I got aggravated about, and I'm just being honest with you. I mean, it's a discussion that's over the police department to know that a volunteer is making more money than a full-time employee on the same dangerous scene. And I try to protect the guys, and I try to do everything I can for them. And I know you guys do that for the fire department too. And I want to apologize for lashing out at the fire department. I think there's some frustration that I listen to these guys, and I let Bill up for a long time. But I did want to say about the pay. For a volunteer to show up that's risking their life just as much as we are to make more money, I mean, it's kind of a slap in the face to the guys. And I don't know if that can be corrected down the road, and I ain't got much time left here. for sure, you know, as you guys creep closer to possibly full-time firefighters, I mean, are full-time firefighters going to start out our pay, or are they going to start out at volunteer pay? There's just things that are talked about over there, and I mean, I don't mean to compare you and bring it, but I have no one else to compare it to. We're both first responders, you guys being volunteers, and us being full-time. It's just, I mean, I really think it's a slap in the face to be out there, and of course I make as much as volunteers, but these guys that are coming on making $17.41 an hour, to know that volunteers showing up making more money than they are. And I get why you did it. It's hard to get volunteers to show up. And I'm having problems getting people to apply. We've had it open for 3 weeks and we've got 2 applications. We need 2 people. I mean, the odds are we going to get those 2 to pass background? Probably. But I wanted to be totally honest and transparent on some frustrations that I think that are going on over there. And if there's any, I mean, I try to support you guys and help when I can. And I don't want there to be any idea that we don't support you or I probably certainly may sound like that the other day. And good for you for getting all that you can, but it's just some things I think that are causing that friction, and I don't know how you fix them. I mean, I come to address you as councilman. Was it an objective opinion? You know, when I'm coming compared to a decision you made over here and came over here and you got 3 votes. I love that 3 votes and everything I wanted. But
Chief, maybe something that you hadn't got you asked for. As long as I've been sitting on this council, we're going to be totally honest. Let's just get it out here, because you're the one that pointed your finger at me the last meeting. And I want to know what you haven't got as the police chief at Greenwood, Arkansas, when you've asked for it. I'm all ears.
There's been some things.
What have you not gotten? You had the run of the mill up there. You had the run of the mill down here. Every time you wait, just like the stuff with the agenda. How hard is that to get on the agenda before the meeting?
How hard is it?
Yeah, hard. The card. We got added every time. We got something to add instead of just getting it on the agenda like everybody else. You always wait till the meeting night.
I was waiting for folks to come.
I'm just saying though.
Anyway.
But I'm just telling you, I would love for you to sit here and tell me and the rest of us, the mayor, the council, all of us.
Raises. I asked for raises to get us where they should be. You give us some, but can we?
You got
Can we move our guys up to 25.79 now?
Move them up there.
I can't. There's a scale that won't allow me to do it.
And it's like the 4th time you've told us you're not going to be here long. Well, okay, we get that. We understand that Greenwood's not a priority for you.
Whoa. Sorry, someone's gonna have to drag my ass out of here. But that's bullshit. Greenwood's not a priority for this man? Bullshit!
Mr. Van Gorder.
Drag me out!
Mr. Van Gorder.
Drag me out!
I'm not dragging you out.
That's bullshit!
If you want to,
that's bullshit.
Mr. Van Gorder, if you want to address the council, I welcome you to in a calm manner. This is not a circus.
My apologies.
Thank you.
Well, I think you know what I mean by that. It's not that I'm sitting here saying that you don't care about it, because you have. You put a lot of time in here. And you know how I feel about you. You and I have had a good relationship. I'm just saying, you made it like we never give you anything. That's how you come across. It's like, but ever since I've sat up here for 16 years, I have not once questioned anything you wanted. And if I could give you $50 an hour, you guys deserve it. I understand that. But you got the largest payroll in the city. Bar none, there's no arguing with that. The fire department cost the city last year maybe a couple $100,000 in payroll. I can't.
Is there a volunteer department in the state the next morning?
I don't know. There may not be. But
You're
most
doing
of
what you
the
have to do to
90% of
attract
stuff that
people.
we got is because the citizens has given us the gracious of that tax to buy what we've got. That's the only reason we got anything we've got. It ain't because it's from the general fund.
Ozark next morning, Greenwood. It's recent.
That's the thing that frustrates me, because you act like we've never helped y'all.
Ozarks and the same struggles.
It's just like right now, you're fixing to ask for 3 police cars. I don't have a problem with that. Because I understand. The 9 days wear out. I'm not going to sit here and belittle you about police cars.
Well, if you look at the age of the Greenwood City Fire Department and the struggles getting people to come, the problem's going to resolve itself. I think we'd be better off with a full-time fire department, and I don't agree with you. I think it's going to happen. We can't get people to come.
I get that, but I can't get people to apply.
Look at the age. I mean, y'all have problems in the city of Greenwood. Fire department has problems. We're one of the largest volunteer fire departments in the state. We operate the fire department extremely cheaply for what the alternative is.
Right.
But the alternative, I think, is fixing to happen.
I think, I didn't come up here for the fact. Just trying to be honest.
There's nothing wrong with that. I appreciate that. But I get honest back with you. I'm just telling you, we've done everything we can to help y'all.
Well, here's what, I mean, you guys make decisions over there, and you automatically have 3 votes. I mean, you can't deny that. Yeah, if you were just basic firemen, and you weren't in the admin meetings saying, yeah, we need this fire truck, and then come over here, and I'm not saying I don't get it, but I just think if I had 3 people, and I know I had 3 votes every time, and yeah, I get what I want, and I don't think I would have got what I wanted last week when the last month of work. But we needed something I asked, and I mean, Stuart comes in here and there's never the him haul around of you should go to the school, and this is just an example from last week, because you already know what he's asking for. And then come over here and you vote yes for it. It's not an objective decision of someone hearing it for the first time. Whereas over here, when I bring something over here, it's definitely the first time that you're going to hear it. It's just,
Guys, I don't want to add to the fire here, but the point he's making, the point that Mr. Newcomb made earlier, that's the elephant in the room. I mean, you guys know that, and I'm not accusing anybody. I don't think Will's accusing anybody of wrongdoing. When the fire truck thing came up, I was the lone no vote. My no vote about that wasn't because I don't think you need a fire truck. It wasn't because I know more about buying trucks than you know. It was, we had 2 hours notice. We called a special called meeting to spend $500,000 on an unbudgeted item. No one, I knew, but when we walked in the meeting, there's no point in me saying a word because my vote doesn't matter at the meeting. I've been frustrated about that. And you guys are all my friends and neighbors, and I'm not accusing you of anything, but I understand the frustration that Will has, I guess, is what I'm saying. I understand why the comments are being made. Right or wrong, I think that's the elephant in the room. You guys have just you're gonna have to go, I don't know how to say this, you've got to try hard to not look that way, I guess, you know what I mean? That there's transparency. Maybe Mr. Newcomb's suggestion that I don't know if that's the right suggestion or not, but you are in a situation where you're not just firemen, you're officers of the fire department. And, I think you have a burden because of that to be really transparent about whatever you're doing. And I'm not accusing you by saying that at all of anything wrong. I'm just saying, I understand where these officers sitting up there can feel that way. I get it.
And it'd be great to come up here and be able to say, well, the fire department's getting this, but I'm worried about making you mad. And it shouldn't be that way. Not that I should compare the fire department, but we're both first responders. And I would like to be able to say, well, you're paying the fire guys this, we want that too. But at that time, I'm worried about, affecting you guys. And I get it. You want everything you get, and we got one of the best fire departments around. And I appreciate that as a homeowner and citizen. But, I gotta address the pay and just know that I'm not seeing if there's any friction. I mean, just think about, what you guys show up making and what the full-time police shows up making.
Well, you agree that our fire department does pretty good for what we are?
Oh, absolutely.
And how long do you think we can continue at this rate?
I don't know. I know that on the road that we are with our pay and not getting any applicants, we're on the same boat.
And you're in a different boat. I feel like my obligation is to try to keep this fire department operating the way it's operating as long as we can. Because the alternative is gonna hurt you. When we fail, and that becomes $1 million department, it's gonna hurt the whole city, and it's gonna hurt the police department too. Because you're the biggest piece of the pie. The best thing for the police department is to keep that operating as cheaply as we possibly can. And it operates labor-wise very cheaply.
All right. Well, here's how our vote hurts you. We stop getting the candidates that we got in the past, and we start to sell. And you don't get the caliber officers that you had.
I don't like the word sell.
Well, I've never wanted to do that, but I can tell you other departments are selling. They're hiring people that we want. But, I mean, if you're not getting applicants and people are paying more, I'm just letting you know the boat that we're in. And, if there's any tension or friction, I mean, that's where it is.
Well, you think you're not getting applicants? I mean, is it just the whole deal? I mean, the last few years, the national news, that has something to do with it. It's just the whole deal.
It's the profession overall, which means that we're fighting for a smaller pool of applicants. State police used to get thousands of applicants across the state. They got 64 last time. So it's just a matter of fighting for the small pool of people that are still wanting to do this job. And that small pool of people is going to look at the pay and benefits, and that's where we're going to go first. And then we're going to get the leftovers, unless we're competitive with pay. And you guys did that this last time around and got us up to competitive with the pay where it's at. But I don't know if you saw it, but Fort Smith just took another big jump to get away from us, and everyone's following suit. And after we just got that big jump to almost catch up to them, now they leaped and took off again. So it's just, we can't catch up.
They're still about 30 short of that.
How many?
$30 are short.
I think it's 17 last time.
Well, I know that also there's not just the base pay. I mean, there's the retirement benefits. There's other things that go into your officer's pay that's not comparable to the volunteer firefighters. They don't get the chief does, but not the volunteer firefighters. And so that needs to be something that needs to be factored in there. That you consider these other things that are a form of compensation, to their base pay.
Well, they're being full-time employees, so that's expected. That doesn't take away from just the difference in pay for a volunteer and a full-time employee. I mean, I agree, we get that, but it doesn't change the fact that they know that they're risking their lives just as much for $9 an hour less while they're out there.
We're very lucky we got guys that pull off work and go out and sit there.
No, you don't ever catch me saying that, we're not.
We're very lucky, and then they go back and they work till 11 or 12 o'clock at night trying to catch back up to get back on schedule the next day. And there's not that many out there anymore. We're losing them, we're hurting too. And it's not me, not us and the fire PD here, it's also in Northwest Arkansas, they're begging for both. And again, they are trying not to settle.
I agree.
And the pay's getting pretty nice. My son's on Springdale Fire Department, and it's really nice.
Well, So I'll openly say, I think we have one of the most professional, highly trained departments around. And I appreciate that. But I'm always up here fighting for our guys, and I don't want to compare it, but I mean, that's what I have.
We are uncomparable, Douglas. We are the largest in the state, and it's hard keeping it that way. When we fail, and I'm talking about fail as a volunteer group, it's going to hurt the entire city.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir, you come up. Mr. Boyd, sorry, I gotta get you on record.
Better say my name again.
Yes, sir.
Buddy Boyd, 130 Ridgecrest Drive.
Thank you.
I simply want to say I respect what this man does. I respect what each one of you as a firefighter do. But I've lived in cities that you're either pro-firemen or pro-police, and it divides the city. I want to encourage you all to work together. Work together and let the citizens see that you're working together, and it will better our community. I happened to be at the last meeting, and I left very unhappy. You know, we're not pro-firemen, we're not pro-police, we're pro-Greenwood. So I encourage you.
I've done reserve cop training for 10 years for the city of Greenwood for a fact due sake. The only reason I'm still not doing it to this day is because of Keith Jackson, did away with our reserve program. I know how it works. So that's why I've sat here for 16 years and I've never heard him question anything he's ever done. But last meeting,
I'm not saying.
I'm just saying, but I'm a little.
I started coming to the city council meetings, and yes, I have seen him
I'm
stand
not
here.
ever disagreeing with it too. I gave the street department the same, as I gave the water department, as we gave the police department, the whole 9 yards. I mean, it's, for me, it's been across the board.
But if you're sitting out here listening, it's not across the board. I mean, every time, and I agree, I think he should be treated no different than me. I have to be on the agenda when I come here. I think he ought to be treated the same way I am. I know he's busy, but that should have been on the agenda. But yes, I've been here and I've seen him ask for stuff and he got it after he fought the battle. He's not battling y'all. He's working for y'all. And y'all are working for him. Let's work together. That's how it works. That's all I have to say. I'm not going to bother you.
Thank you. So, in regard to the agenda, Chief, I appreciate what you're saying, I appreciate what council's doing, it's a good conversation to have, but I think a lot of it is needs to be done at budget time. I think there's or council forum for sure. So, if you don't mind and everybody else is good, let's move on with this.
I was just getting ready, I just want to apologize.
Yeah, we're good.
And sorry to you.
It's all good.
The first one I like to address is the flooded car, and Tom's got the numbers for it. And I know it is 16,000 and some change that we got from insurance. It was a total loss. And I have a Charger that is the cheapest police car out there. I want you to understand that the state bid is non-existent. There is no state bid cars. If you call the few cars that are on the list, they'll laugh at you and tell you you're like the 486th car in line, and you might get a couple years. So I've had to search all across the country to find police cars. I've gotten beaten to some police cars by California and other states. There's not a whole lot of police cars out there. Every state, Oklahoma knows the same way. You can't get the cars. The manufacturers aren't manufacturing the amount of cars that they're manufacturing, and it's a fight over these cars that they're a lot higher than what we're used to. I called procurement office and they said don't expect anything different for this year. Don't expect it. They haven't got any bids to get on the list. So I found the Charger in Georgia. And it is the cheapest police car I could find across the country at $33,000.
It's the 33,647 that you have attached to the actual resolution. The Charger will be replacing the 2014 Chevy Tahoe. So it should be one of your item 13s. You should have two of them.
That's what he's wanting to buy. That's what he's talking about, the Charger.
What you see see behind it for 16,921 is the insurance settlement for the flood.
So so the 33, the 16 is going to be subtracted from the 33 for the adjustment, right?
That's correct. They're looking at outfitting the car too, so it's a $12,000 cost to outfit the car. So the total cost of the car with the outfitting for it to be used on the streets is $45,647 less than 16. We're asking for a capital expenditure budget approval for $28,726, which is the net difference.
The insurance doesn't pay us back for some of the outfitting, just the car.
Right. We're not missing Tahoe getting flooded.
What?
How did I miss a Tahoe getting flooded?
It was over in the Indian Hills, what is that called?
Vancouver's house.
Yeah, right there, by John's house.
When you left.
Personnel. By the time I tried to get over there, I couldn't, in my truck, I couldn't get to it. And if you want me to address all three, I can go and explain them.
Yeah, and then I'll sum it
But
up.
that's the one to replace the flooded cars. And then the next two, I have the money from drug seize funds to purchase the cars, but I don't have the funds to outfit the cars at $12,000 a piece.
Well, one is 12 and one is not,
Right.
because it's the,
And as people look at there's a Camaro on there, and that's for school resource. We had one before, and the reason behind that is the generation of contact that it was positive. The last time we had one, people wanted to take pictures with it. Some people not knowing the number game, it's going to be $5,000 less than the cheapest police car I can find. So it's going to be cheaper, and it's for the school resource program.
So we have two resolutions. All right. So the first resolution for the Charger and the insurance. I'll make a motion that we adopt that resolution.
Second. We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution.
Well, they're both named 13, so I'm
Yeah.
saying number 13 that deals with the 2022 Dodge Charger.
I'm pricing the 2022 car.
I need to make
the
it.
reason we have two, because one of them comes from the police general budget, and the other comes from the DTF budget, which is a separate.
I'm dealing with
We're talking about the general budget one first.
I'm dealing with the police.
I know, I just wanted you to know why there's two.
Okay, that's why they're separate.
All right.
Okay.
So you're making a motion?
Yeah.
Yes. Do I have a second? Yes.
I guess I'm still confused. So we're still voting on both 13s?
He's just doing
I
what
made a
just the
motion
one, all right.
to replace the 2014 Chevrolet Tahoe with the 2022 Dodge Charger that affects the police general, the police fund.
Okay, all right. Square.
And I'll second.
Yeah. Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, just real quick.
Yes, sir.
For those wondering, and they've all given their 2 cents worth of that, why the police department right here is a good example about a little bit of bickering and ping ponging about replacing the car or buying these cars. The police department was not included in the 3/4% sales tax it passed in November of 2006. I voted against it, by the way, my bad. But, so that's why all of the fidgeting, I guess. And that's why you don't see a lot when the firemen need something for the fire department, because there's a tax involved. And when you hear the word out of compliance and restricted fund, you don't need to do a lot of begging and beating around about why I need a new fire truck. $500,000, $10, $80 million, whatever. Because there's funds, tax dollars restricted to buy those. I don't know, I know everybody probably already knows this, but I'm just trying to reiterate so we realize why we have to try to figure out how to move money around in capital funds and line items to get him new cars. He knows this. Most people know this, but some don't. So I just wanted to kind of clear up. I mean, obviously I take objection to any kind of whatever against the guys that sit up here that are also firemen, because I know that there's integrity involved up here. But a lot of times it's super easy for the firemen to get some what they want because they've got a restricted tax fund.
It's certainly a smooth process.
Just like just about this point.
Yeah.
When you have your own money, it's easier.
Yeah.
The fire department has its own money, and it makes it easier. That's true.
I agree.
It's
And,
13.
just to add to that, I mean, we were working towards that once our building was paid off and our tax was taken away for the bypass.
I agree. I agree.
That was Tom's fault.
All right, I'll retire now.
Why not?
We haven't done 13B.
Chief, can you explain the DTS money received by?
It was seizures off of federal cases where asset forfeiture was taken from the suspects and our portions turned over to us. And right now there's $76,000 in there, but $5,000 was earmarked earlier for overtime for that DTF loss.
So you're wanting to buy a Chevrolet Camaro and a Dodge Durango?
67,000 some change. So it's under the 70,000 that we need from the DTF funds. And I mean, we can use the extra 2,000 to make up the 70,000 towards the outfitting, but I came forward with 70,000 because we've already earmarked that for overtime.
One thing you need to probably look at from this angle is that drug seizure money is not specific to buying cars. He's choosing to use that money to buy the car. He probably could use it for other things too, but he's given that up in order to save money. And I'll let you know basically what he's trying to do with his cost. He is buying 3 cars that if he did not have the insurance settlement and use the DTF funds, his total out of pocket would be $133,000. He'd be coming to you for $133,000. He's coming to you with a total impact to the general fund for $49,000. That includes the outfitting of all 3 of those cars. That's $16,500 per vehicle. That's an incredible maneuvering of asset, and meaning both cash asset and the actual physical asset. For $49,000, you're getting 3 vehicles. The rest is being paid for from funds that come from the federal government and from the insurance.
DTF funds are kept in a restricted,
Yes.
virtual restricted fund.
But
And the oversight of the DTF funds, it's us, it's you. So you decide what you want to spend the money on. So why are we passing the resolution?
Because I can buy them, but I can't
You
outfit them.
can't outfit it.
It's being going back to the general fund for allocation.
So the oversight is just the police chief, nobody else?
Yes.
No committee,
No.
no federal government?
Well, I mean, they want to see what you purchase at the end of the year.
We do a report.
So there is a kind of an audit.
It's got to fall in the guidelines of what you can buy. I mean, I can't just buy anything, but it can be used for overtime and equipment. And hopefully that keeps coming in because it's helped me buy a lot of cars over the years.
At the end of the year, who do you file this report with?
It goes to the state.
And then it goes to the state, it goes to the federal.
It starts with the state. They have to have it.
You can buy candy bars?
No.
Okay, so you can't buy anything.
Can't buy donuts.
Right. Equipment,
No,
it's paid for overtime and equipment.
Overtime and equipment. Okay. And so you're just here because you can buy the cars, you just can't outfit them.
Yes, sir.
And the outfitting, so it's all that stuff that obviously is not insured.
Right.
21,000.
So that really hurts us in natural disasters when things get tore up.
It does.
because we had 10 cars get tore up. We're out all the outfitting for the 10 cars.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely, I put this in a report after the fact, and this is the 4th time we've done it, but I also took our command trailer that we purchased with drug seize funds for $29,000 in 2017, and the 92 Hummer that we got for government acquisition, $200, and traded it for a truck for CID that was $46,000 straight across the board. So we got $26,000 for the Hummer and $20,000 for the trailer that we bought for $29,000 in 2017. So that was one less vehicle I had to come. And not that I want to get rid of the trailer, but with our needs right now, I had to have the car for CID, so.
All right, so I understand that when you take a DTF funds and you buy a police car or whatever, but then you take general fund money and then you outfit it, and it becomes public property in that way. When you get rid of it, what happens? I mean, we're at the fire department, we always have to auction everything off and go through this rigmarole.
Well, we can go through the auction, but we're going to get a lot less money.
True. I mean, I agree with you. But there are funds put into these things that are general fund money. So where's the oversight when you go throw this thing away or get rid of it?
After a certain amount of years, the equipment, some of the equipment is taken out of it, like the radio, and sometimes if the radar's still in good use, but the rest of them, you can't put in a new car because of life expectancy of the lights. So there's nothing in there that is.
So you could say by age, it's actually devalued.
Yes.
So we're not losing anything. You're not.
In this case of the Hummer and the trailer, we're in the positive $16,000 of what the city has into those two things. And go on. I asked the mayor about trading in my truck to get a gas truck because I no longer need to hold the trailer. And diesel is killing me every time I fill that thing up. But the value of trading in was at $43,000. I didn't think it was worth it. I'm not going to make a decision that's going to put us on the negative side of a decision that's going to hurt me in the long run.
I'll make a motion, we adopt the resolution purchasing the Chevrolet Camaro and the Dodge Durango.
But now, we're doing these just because, like I said, you need 2 additional. There's no
There's no other vehicles
that were damaged by a flood, just that one.
We were down a patrol car, right? And then I had an extra car for the new SRO. And that's the cheapest route. And I know some people look at it and say why, but I mean, it's $5,000 less than the cheapest police car I could get.
I was just saying that, I guess I had, the 13 was to amend the budget due to flooding, but I'm saying that it really is it's more than that. It's just one car was flooded, but you need 3 cars.
Correct.
Okay.
The DTF funds, how are they allocated to us? Is there a formula?
We get a percentage based on how many work hours we have in that case.
Chief, at the risk.
What's the delay? Is it like
It takes a long
year,
time.
2 years?
2 years probably.
The money you get today may be 5-year-old.
It's 2 years ago though.
2
Most
years
of the money
ago.
is at least 2 years old.
Well, then we have a motion to it, so.
I think so.
Well, I was, go ahead, we'll go over it, I'll ask you.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Yes.
My question is at the risk of getting your blood pressure back up, and the only reason I'm asking you this is because,
I took a mess.
the only reason I'm asking you this is because we've got a DTF purchase vehicle in this resolution we just passed. I'm just wondering if we should have been involved in the trading of the trailer and the Hummer, if that should have been cleared through somebody.
Well, this is the 4th time we've done it. It's never raised the flag before. That's why, we're in a hurry to get the cars and get them because we're short. I have no issue if you want me to bring that to you. The way I look at it is a decision that you put me in this place to make, and I'm not gonna, if I'm making decisions you don't like, then I don't need to be here. But, I mean, I would think that my job over all the assets is to make the decisions, and that's why I'm in this position. I don't believe I made a decision asset-wise that was in the negative for the city that you've ever said anything about.
No, they were 100% both pieces of junk that probably should have gotten rid of. I agree, the deal was awesome. I just wonder if there's a protocol or a chain of command or something. Because unfortunately, we're in charge of the assets of the city.
When my truck, I talked to the mayor about doing that beforehand. The way I looked at the Hummer, and it started with Jackson. Jackson was the first one to do it.
Right.
And I know we've done it twice since I took over. This being the third time.
Mr. Handy, is it the mayor or the council that clears vehicles for a trade-in type of situation?
Whatever you have an ordinance for, if you have an ordinance, it's not, nothing is
I think it says the mayor is authorized agent in our purchasing ordinance.
I just wondered,
if that's the way, I've got no issues. No, I might call for some emergency meetings if something's happening. But like this deal here, I mean, you can ask Kristen how many hours I spent on the phone trying to find cars, and I didn't even know if I was going to find cars for the
raise.
Yeah, she wants a raise after this.
Only because of how long she's been on trying to find cars.
But I let Cheryl know, she sent an email that I needed to be on the agenda Wednesday. I think it was probably too late for her to get on the agenda. I was probably too late, and it's my fault. But, I mean, up until even 2 hours ago, I'm still trying to get quotes and stuff, just to see if anybody was cheaper across the country. I don't know if you look, but one car is in Michigan, one car is in Georgia, and one car is in Texas. And I'm just trying to find the cheapest price. And I mean, I look at our numbers, and I want the taxpayers to know that I'm not just picking something, and regardless of what the cost is, just because it's enforcement. I could have bought that Camaro enforcement for $10,000 more, but it's $10,000 less than Texas. I'm just trying to be frugal with money and be transparent and spend it the best way I can. And if you want me to come and ask for trading stuff, I'll do that.
Well, I just didn't know if it was supposed to be done that way. I don't know if the street guy will take a backhoe and trade in for a ditch witch. I didn't know.
Well, I was saying, that Charlie, you said, yes, the mayor has leeway in purchasing, but in disposing of, cities' assets, is there?
That's why the trade is like the gray area of that. I mean, it's trading one asset to get another one.
And we always vote what we're going to auction off.
Well, and obviously, this deal, he would have gotten a 6-0 vote, or however many would have showed up to do all this trading.
The council approves, reviews, and approves things to be auctioned or given away.
I'm just trying to cover everybody's.
I understand that. I don't know. I asked Mike if there was any issue with it, and he said not an issue. I try to cover my bases, and I apologize for that on that deal. But when I talked to him about my truck, and I'm just trying to, our fuel budget's through the roof, and I don't see any relief coming anytime soon. I do know that it costs twice as much to fill. Well, not twice as much, a lot more, $180 to fill that diesel truck. And that probably doesn't last near as long as if I got a gas truck.
But yeah, you were doing it because of the urgency. I mean, these deals don't stick around forever, and you had to do it because of the urgency to save $10,000.
Yes, and if I would have waited much longer on police cars, there's not going to be any left, because they're not manufacturing anymore right now. And they're making a lot more on civilian cars than they are police cars, so the amount being manufactured is a lot less than the need out there. I mean, I'm fighting different states to travel with these cars.
Now, what is the next car? The fleet. How old is it?
There's one other car that's the same year as the one that got flooded. And it's at 100,000 miles now. And that, I mean, I hope we get there, replace this budget, and then after that, we should have a couple years without any car.
Tell me again your troubles, how many are you down right now, officers?
We're the two, we moved Jeff to get the CID, he moved over to school resource, and then Fisher and Poole, through an interview process with school officials, were picked to go to SRO. So now, from patrol, so there's 2 spots in patrol that I've got to find, put 2 applications in now over the last 3 weeks.
Your management, your leadership is all filled, you're just missing 2
Patrol,
patrol.
starting patrol.
And to attract a patrol officer now, what are we offering? Money, salary.
It's at $17.41 an hour, I believe.
And what is Fort Smith offering?
I don't know what it just went to. They got a, I don't know if it's 20-something% raise or whatever was just passed. I think it's 20-something%.
We advertise an hourly wage or a salary for those guys?
Salary.
Do you think a Fort Smith is offering 20% more than we are?
They just got approved to make that jump. I don't know what it's going to take them to, but sheriff's office is asking for somewhere around that 20% raise. I mean, everyone's trying to keep up to be competitive just because of the small pool of applicants out there. And I don't know if you know, but I told you I would go to school about the SRO position, and the very next day, the mayor and I went and met with Kevin Heston and John Cecil, and they didn't hesitate when I asked to pay for another school resource officer. So they were paying half, and this one full position.
$11,372 per month.
And they're waiting to see if they change the formula for the state kickback money per student, to see if they include security in that equation to possibly hire more, so they'll have one in every school.
So that puts us further behind? I mean, we need more? If they
Well, I mean, depends who you talk to, but I mean, the goal is to have one in every school. And we have 3 now with 5 schools.
How much does school cost us when we send them to academy?
Well, it's about 3 months of salary and just travel and whatever that would add up to per officer.
School, it's just hired on.
Yeah, they're not here working, we're paying them to be in school.
And if they leave within a year?
They leave within specific periods of time to go to another agency, we have recourse to that.
We can get reimbursed this within a year.
I'm gonna interrupt you for a minute and say, as we go to 14, and then certainly more conversation can be had during the council.
Yeah.
We need to get away from.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we were at the end.
One more.
It's 14, ordinance to waive competitive bidding.
That's for all these vehicles we just talked about, or at least the last 2.
And that's because, like I said, I'm going to different spots in the United States to get each one. No one in Arkansas has police vehicles.
Make a motion, we put this on for first reading by title only.
Second. Motion is second.
Mr. Brown?
I just need to read the title.
Well, I got to vote.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait, yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Powell, vote right?
Okay.
Yeah. You got to vote. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Is everything okay?
Everything's good.
Mr. Baker?
Yes. I did a point of
Mr.
order.
Powell?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Daniel? Sit there.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I needed to vote first. Threw me off. I was like, was I in the twilight zone? And we did vote? And now I don't.
Yes, we are.
Okay. An ordinance waiving competitive bidding for the purchase of a police vehicle, declaring an emergency for other purposes.
Make a motion, we waive the second, third reading.
Second. Motion is second to waive first and second reading.
Mr. Brown?
Second, third. Yes, sir.
Mr. Meeker?
Where are you at?
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Spencer? Yes.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Spencer? Yes.
Make a motion to invoke emergency clause.
Second. Motion is second to vote the emergency
Doesn't
clause.
have an emergency clause on it, does it?
Yes. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
No.
Yes.
Lester? That's Tom Stewart.
Thank you. Now, department reports and questions from council.
I'll just go ahead and ask him.
Absolutely.
So back to your problems, the average age of the police department seems to be getting younger, and that may be because I get older. It seems like it was more middle age, probably by the time you become chief. Is it really getting younger?
We're really young. If you look at, and people aren't leaving for other police agencies, very seldom, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. They're getting out of law enforcement. Most of the time, I mean, I never have that guy out to make less money, I'll say that. They're leaving for better benefits and pay. And just because it's no fault of the cities, or Greenwood, to me, is you can't get any better for support. And so they have that in other cities you don't. I think it's just the climate and lack of respect for the profession that are steering new officers away from them. I mean, when you're talking about thousands of applicants for state police and it's down to 64, everybody has the problem. The question is, what do you do with that pool that's left? What do you do to be the agency that attracts them to come here? 2 years ago, I put a settlement, it took us 10 months, and we failed everybody out of the application process, and 2 of them got higher enforcement. And I don't think we're working anymore. But 2 years ago, it took us 10 months to find somebody that I think I would be able to lay my head down at night and trust to make decisions I need to be made and not get sued. Every time I've got sued in Greenwood, it's because it's something another agency's done, including right now. So we're hiring the right people, and I think one of the 2 applicants is going to work out great. He's about to get out of the Marines, he's a good kid, and he's going to be young, but I don't know. But we've got to find 2 people, and everyone's fighting over what little pool there is there. And I'm nervous about our profession and certainly about the department and getting people higher than me and not having people here that will make decisions to get us sued. Because we haven't had that, and I certainly don't want to start because agencies all across, even this area, get sued over things that police officers do. And knock on wood, I mean, we haven't done anything to cause a lawsuit yet, but we've been unfortunately on the scene when other agencies do things to get us in a lawsuit.
To send them to get trained, are we sending more to get trained than we have in the past? Because it doesn't seem like we're getting people that, we used to get a few from Fort Smith that come in and they're already trained. But everybody you've probably hired in the last couple of years, you had to send.
If you notice, the ones that came in from Fort Smith aren't here anymore. I've come to find out usually, I'd probably say 7 out of 10 times, basically you think you're getting a trained officer, but you're probably getting somebody else's problem. And I learned that, and I learned my lesson over the time being chief. So you're better off to hire an officer and train them the way that you want instead of giving someone else a problem. And then you run, there's just so many things that wrong. You want to bring in somebody with experience, or you're going to pay them for the experience. You're going to start off, it just causes problems because you're going to pay them more than someone that's been here for a certain amount of years because they have more experience. And this person, it's just not worth it. Not taking the gamble of getting someone else's problem, or you're getting somebody that's good. I don't know if it's that way in the fire department, but.
Well, we know that our Fort Smith firefighters, once they become a Fort Smith firefighter, they're ruined. We can't get anything out of them. The great thing about the Chaffee firefighters is now, at least on this last fire, they called Lance and said, man, it's all gone to heck over here, and it's out of control, and it's headed towards Greenwood, and that gave us a chance to be on the defensive rather than the offensive when we had a couple houses burnt down.
Well, I called AC, I called both of them, I think, but I know both ends also. But I called out there Chaffee, and first I called dispatch and I said, does Chaffee have this fire under control? And we just talked to him, yes. So I called Chaffee and I'm like, hey, you have this fire under control? And
I could hear in his voice that they didn't, but he said, oh yeah, we got more people coming in. And then he said, just jump South Boundary Road. And I said, well, you don't have it under control, man. And it's almost here. So I went up on the hill and looked, and that's when I dispatched you guys out, trying to wait for them to tell me if they needed help or not.
It was nice to be on the defensive rather than the offensive.
It was scary, and you guys did a great job stopping it. And I didn't think you were going to be able to be honest, just with the wind and how fast it was coming. And I know how fast those cedars went up last time. So, kudos to you.
I'd like to know exactly what Fort Smith is starting theirs out at, if you don't mind finding that out.
Sir?
It's right at 20.
Yeah.
It's right at $20 now.
Right at 20 even.
Yeah.
We're at
So there's
7.
a newspaper article, I think, that was 1978, 1987, something like that, too. They just bumped it $2 an hour, I think.
I don't know how it worked out.
I was trying to get the newspaper article in order, but yeah.
That's before the 20%.
Yeah, well,
They were at
12-15%.
1974.
Yeah. It was substantial.
So we went in and tried to get competitive at Fort Smith on starting pay, then we obviously need to increase the existing among the leadership and patrol officers.
That's always been an issue that we've had. There's not a lot of disparity between someone that's
Right.
corporal and someone that's a sergeant. And it gets to the point where you ask, is it worth that time and money for the extra responsibility? And sometimes it's a no, sometimes it's a yes. It depends what their big picture is and where they want to end up.
So I'd like to know, based upon the number of officers that you have, what the final number would be to hit to try to get competitive with Fort Smith. You know, if you took your existing force and then the ones that are missing and tried to pull the entry guys up to $20 an hour, and I don't know about everybody else, I know what the final total would be.
I think it's a lot more complicated than that, because we see the same thing with game fish. I mean, you're constantly comparing yourself to city police, county police, state troopers, game fish, and they're all constantly having to jostle their pay scale to keep up with somebody else.
Yes, state police has got to do jump too.
Big game fish do. Officers, that's it.
Not officers.
Not you. Well, that's the thing. I mean, everybody sees that somebody else is going up, so they have to keep up with the pace.
Well, I would say in the past, there were so many, it was competitive to get into this profession. I remember getting in it and getting started, and it was competitive. There was tons of people applying for a little amount of jobs. Well, now you've got more jobs than people are applying for. It's just a smaller pool of people that you're trying to pull from. I mean, do you want anything less than the top 50% that you're willing to accept? I mean, I don't know what that number is, but we had, last time we had 7 apply for the open position when we hired Justin, and none of them showed up for a fitness test. So that was nobody. We had to start the process all over again.
Yeah, the salaries are not going to fix that. It's your applicant. You're going to have a bigger applicant.
Well, how do you do that without attracting them when people make more?
Well, it's also, like you said, it's the climate and the environment that we're in, you know, and unfortunately, that's.
And I'm going to tell you that, I mean, you would think that most police officers want to work in a city that's safe and aren't going to be shot as much as, but, I mean, I'm sure it's like a fireman. I mean, you get that adrenaline kick, and believe it or not, police officers probably, most of them, want to work where they get into stuff and they get the adrenaline and
It's pull their gun.
no, I pulled my gun, I've been shot at, so, but it may happen more often somewhere else.
We also have this thing called tax revenue that we have to deal with when we're trying to compare matching salaries and lifting. I mean, unfortunately, I don't know what Fort Smith's tax base is for their general fund to pull or to be able to, I really don't know where they've got extra, but with all the fines and everything else they're paying.
Yeah, they can afford it even after paying all the fines.
Right.
So.
But anyway, unfortunately, that's a problem. We're living in.
Well, I think you compare
compare that to some cities, and then, I mean, comparatively, they have to have a lot more officers. So we'll ask for more money, or we have less. But yeah, I mean, things like Burton's property out here are gonna help us all get more money for that type of stuff. And that's, I mean, frustrating for me sitting out there as a chief. I'm like, please just pass this thing and get things started so we can get more tax money. But, we're gonna need to grow for that to happen. Our needs and the expenses to buy our things are getting more expensive, and our tax base is moving up a little bit, but it's not keeping up with the cost of doing business. So we're But if you don't have any other questions, again, I'm sorry. I appreciate the support, and I won't argue the fact that I've had to fight some things, but ultimately, it's passed. I like to think that was my fight. Last time I got emotional about it and lashed out, and I apologize for that.
Well, I just wish that everybody could take solace in the fact that y'all got shafted out of that tax way back when. I mean, unfortunately, that's the bottom line, period.
Well, there was that agency that came in and said, wouldn't pass with us on there. They may have been right back then. We worked, and I think we worked hard. I mean, I would, and nothing against Chief Hicks, but I would think, just the professional level of where we were at then and where we're at now. We've taken the crime index and cut it in half. When you think you couldn't get any less crime, we've cut it in half. But we've got to remain progressive, and you can be reactive or you can be proactive. And we're proactive, and we're able to do that because we have the officers do it. And if you're going to commit a crime, you want to ride through the city that you don't hardly see any police officers, or you see one, every half mile or whatever. Right. And I think that has played to our advantage over the years. And you don't have officers just sitting around doing nothing. They're proactive. And, just last week, there was a key to methamphetamine that was sitting in a Walmart parking lot for an hour. That Danny Haddock stopped and got that key of methamphetamine and 3 pounds of marijuana out. And it's just a matter that we can do that. Fort Smith is running from call to call to call, and they don't have time to be proactive. They're reactive. And we have to thank for giving us the numbers that we need to be proactive and deter the people from coming here and do those crimes. If you stop someone for a drug offense, in Fort Smith, it's easy to get somebody delivered to you in Fort Smith. But you stop them here and try to get that dealer to bring them to Greenwood, good luck. And that's what we want. We don't want to bring it here, and it does happen occasionally. But it's here, and we've had the fentanyl overdoses, unfortunately, and we're just trying to keep control of that. And it's been a little while since we've had any, but we have the resources that anytime we get information of drugs, we're able to do it, where other departments can't. And not that I think we're overstaffed because we're under state average, but we have the numbers to do what we need to do. And thankfully, over the years, we've had the support from the council and the citizens, and hopefully that continues, and be a department that everyone's proud of. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. I appreciate it. Other department heads here. We got planning junior.
Where's planning? Is it Sunny here?
Yep.
Yeah, but, well, I got one big question. All right? I'll wait for you to come up here. You're going to need to talk. Yeah, I hope I didn't get away that Facebook post. I'm just wondering what's going in out there on 10 Spur. Who's third?
Story room.
Yeah, that's,
Climate
I don't
control
know.
story room.
And then I piggyback this, I'd like to ask Tom, what kind of big tax windfall we get from climate control storage buildings?
None. You already know that.
So,
I could have told you that. We got gigantic
well,
piles,
so, I mean,
thousands of dollars.
so then we put all this pipe in the ground and we raise our corridor entry and put mini storage. I'm just curious how that got approved and how, because I think we disapproved the last guy tried to do that or something out there. He ended up moving out there on the highway 71. He wanted to come in here and get some kind of cut rate deal because he was late for the cut rate water tablet Sean Lim.
It's one of those deals that is zone commercial, and whoever owns the property can put things in there that we allow, and it would be
You have to allow them?
Yes, I mean, it's not something we wanted, certainly certainly didn't want.
We can't pick and choose what businesses come in
And
here.
that's a good way to get to it.
I'm not attorney.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, Mike, you stand that in court?
No.
I didn't think so.
And Mike comes out and says, I'm gonna put a storage building on this property that I own. And we say, here's the guidelines to build it, and what you have to meet. And he says, I'll bet all that, and so we just say, happy hunting.
That's basically it. And we have
Old
to,
American.
we have to grit our teeth and say that, because, it's not.
We did something with Gil in the nursery, because he didn't put the nursery.
Could you make your zoning regulations, could you alter what
Forget.
C1 zoning regulation to say that C1 is a tax generating business?
C1 is, you know, right now.
Can we do that?
C1 is, town square, that area there. C2 is, commercial, right away. And,
But what I'm asking is, could we alter our zoning regulations to say it has to be a tax generating business?
could be a nonprofit. It could be like the.
In the current one that you have, we're asking, can we, is there anything?
In other words, we make our zoning regulations define them such that mini stores don't meet the regulation.
When you start eliminating businesses, you run into legal problems, and that's a Mike Andy question. It's
That's what
like,
we're asking, if we can rezone, if there's a way to manipulate the zoning. Like we do with residential, R1, R2, R3, R4,
for
R5.
example, mobile homes. We cannot eliminate mobile homes in the city of Greenwood, but we can put them in certain areas.
Right.
For sales tax
And
relief.
those, you know, the storage facilities, they are approved for commercial. You know, we've got them, one out, you know, on your end of the town, there's 2 of them out there, that are in commercial areas.
Is that guy getting a water tax?
Yeah,
You're gonna have to pay that outrageous.
he already had, yeah.
Well, there you go, you got that.
That's
Anyway, Mike, if you wouldn't mind
He
checking on that, I'm curious.
the original tap fee or the new tap fee?
We can manipulate residential down to the blade of grass. It seems like you should
Didn't
do
bad
it
enough.
commercial.
He bought it from the person that did buy the tap fee, and so that was in the purchase price of the.
You didn't pay us for a new one,
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
right?
It's kind of a double whammy.
He didn't pay us for a new tap, he bought the tap from the guy that had, is that right?
The ownership transferred when you purchased the property.
Okay.
And the original tap was for a 4-story hotel. This was
$25,000.
But, Tim, like I said, wasn't happy about it, but there wasn't anything we could do about it. But
That's what I'm trying to figure out for something we can do.
You get.
Not now, obviously,
Yeah.
because I'm just
You
saying.
get real tricky when you start eliminating things. I mean, you know, with the state law now, we can't even tell people what to put on their houses.
Well, we can certainly regulate residential buildings and what goes in where.
So on what? It's getting tough.
I wish it was, but we can do places put up all over this place.
No, it's not that. I mean, it's siding. We can't say we can't.
Oh, I'm not worried about color either.
We can't, we can't have somebody, we can't say that you have to put brick on there. In fact, somebody can come along and just put plywood on the outside and leave it like that. If it's not a subdivision, right? That's where our subdivisions help out.
That's all I was wondering.
All right.
Hopefully we can get something with Mr. Henry on that. That'd be neat. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Anybody else with parks or, that's all, no, streets here? If not, we'll go to council forum, which I think we've kind of done.
Couple things.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to follow up with Ms. Brandt's request about the park lawn. We discussed that at one time.
Yeah, we have a drawing from Michael John, actually, on it.
I have it right here.
She's got it right there. So we have it. If you guys want to proceed with that, to actually put it out to bid, I'm ready to do it. Okay, now that's, do you have
Want
it?
me to pull it up?
Yeah, if you don't mind So this is a parking lot with a little bit of, what I've asked Michael is to make it a little parking-like, not park cars, but more parking-like. I don't know what that means. But it left some area next to the rock parking lot that looks nice. And it left the area next to the rock wall that Miss Joanna lives in, if you will, in the store, to do a few little things there.
We are doing things to bring a lot of people downtown, free fest and all that.
Everything would be great.
You apply for a,
This
grant
has all
may be
of
for
it.
back on the back.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
This is a little parking area right behind that would take care of that, take care of your place over
I didn't realize we had one for the back, and we had this one here.
There you go. No, no, I don't. I believe it.
Mayor, and that might not be.
Oh, I see.
Park back here.
Figure it out on the lot.
Right. We looked at the behind. We know that do this all the time. We don't fortunately in mind that you get that experience. So I'll give this.
Keep it going now.
In fact, I got a scout looking at it. Somebody did. You want to see it? Some restaurant.
There's 30.
Are we talking camp, park lot, open door facilities? Yes, sir.
I hope I'm not stepping that line in, but I would like to announce from Masonic Lodge that in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be having a ice cream social and watermelon social, hosting the fire department, police department, and first responders, just as a community outreach to everybody. So we want to do that because of what y'all do, and what the police department does, and what the mechanics do.
When is that?
We will tell you that after Thursday.
To be announced.
So on that note, while they're looking at these pictures, and so we had a discussion a while back about as we build the bypass and we extend Main Street over to the bypass, we know that we are going to be very, very near the Sonic Lodge. So it was a discussion, the guys came in, I think Tim kind of headed that up a little bit. So here's what I talked to the guys, some of the guys from Sonic Lodge about the possibility of if we're going to go through that building, or if we can't get near, or if it needs to go, and I know that's y'all's building, but if there could be a thought, or my thought, that the building, if Masonic Lodge can't be there, could it be where we're talking about putting this parking lot? And with the Masonic Lodge, it's going to be a parking lot. So it wouldn't be just a parking lot, it would be a new building to house the Masonic Lodge, who only meets once a month at night. And there's this parking lot sitting there that nobody uses during the day. So,
We have 2 lots, right?
yeah, we have 2 lots. Now, that's just something to think about. Instead of just paving the whole thing, parking lot. Possibility of Masonic Lodge sitting there with parking lot.
Where at?
On these 2 lots on Main Street, across from Tammy's house.
Be right across the street from where it started.
Yes. I mean, that's kind of cool. I don't know how much you guys talked about that further after we talked about the future. You and I discussed it, or.
We certainly were in the business of hoping not having to move it
Right.
and being able to go beside it with that road.
That would take up part of the parking space.
Well, yeah, it would only, I'm sorry, it wouldn't be a whole park, it wouldn't be a full, whatever you got scheduled or described there, engineers. It would be less, but one might think, or one might to ask, and I'm sure Joanna can chime in on this because she's been asking for a parking lot for a long time, is how many spaces do you need for downtown shopping? I mean, if a parking lot that there's not an architect here, is it? Cheryl? No. If you got a building sitting there, and it all depends on how big the two lots are, I get that. But you put a building on it, and then you have a parking lot for, I can't imagine you guys not having a parking lot for at least 20 cars, or 25 cars.
Right.
Then-
Probably lots all the way around.
Yeah, then you accommodate the school. It
What's
doesn't
the,
have 50 spots anymore, it's got 25.
what's the, liquor house used for?
The what?
Drusilla's house, what's it used for? Or is that ours, or is that the
I just want to tell you all about the ice cream soda.
Thank you.
County owns it.
Okay, all right.
That's just an option for the, and again, I'm like Tim, I hope we can avoid, and by the way, City Street, we can variance of getting closer to that building. I'm looking at planning guys, we can't, okay, never mind. So, that went out the window as quick as I thought. Sidewalk, yeah.
No, sidewalk.
There is sidewalking, but that of course entails the other property owner. So there's all kinds of little options here, but I would like for us to consider that on their behalf, their Masonic Masons.
Get the parking lot built and we'll pass a resolution saying they use it.
And the good thing about a parking lot, you spend some money on it, but if something comes along later, you need a building, or you need that not to be more than a parking lot, that's not a horrible waste in my opinion.
Is there enough space there? I was looking at the picture, I lost track of the conversation. Is there enough space there that you could give the furthest north lot to the Masons and do a parking lot in between the two buildings?
No, I think you put the Masonic Lodge toward the back and just build a parking lot. That's me. And also, you have the availability. We own the alleyway, huh? Oh, yeah. I actually had Travis place a very substantial size senior citizen center on those two lots. And it fit, it was pretty tight with the parking lot. So Masonic Lodge, I don't know what y'all's square.
Basically, the senior citizen center.
Yeah. So it can be done, I mean. But my point is, we have the availability or the possibility, we own it. If you went between said parking lot or said senior citizen center, drove through there and you come out behind Joanne's building, we own that where the old fire.
It's drawn in there.
Is it on there? Okay. So there's some room.
And if we look at zero lot lines.
Yeah, we probably have to do a little variance, something or another there.
Russell started doing a lot of that. Russell started doing a lot of zero lot.
And, as you know, I've been after and have not, I continue to pursue it every time I see her. That's the reason she goes the other way, is I'm always interested in where the city hall used to sit as a parking lot.
We should have never sold
Hindsight's
I think
20/20.
you made the motion. Charlotte?
You want to check the records on that?
Probably did.
That would be interesting to
Sure,
know.
Daniel made the motion, and I think I remember the conversation.
To sell it?
To sell it.
Yeah.
Look
it.
at
Well, we owned that house
We
there,
owned
we
that
should do the police.
Yeah.
There was probably an emergency clause on it too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sell it back.
All right.
I make a motion with adjourn.
Wait, let me.
I was just gonna say,
Yes, sir.
that there had been some discussion that if we were to get water across Tinsburg, that we were going to discuss the capability of getting Burton to put in a larger pipe if we were going to run it. And so now that we have agreed to that, I would ask to see if he would be willing to do that, and we would pay the extras to get the bigger pipe.
To upgrade it?
To upgrade it.
I'm all for that. We've done that before somewhere, I think. Seems like we did.
If we're just running it, if they just sized it for his little old area, you know the next little spot's gonna have to come about.
It would be silly to think that we would just put an 8-inch down that property and go to the other end, because we all have agreed, and I think we did a great job. Thank you, by the way, for agreeing that we're talking about expanding, moving on all the way across.
Keep expecting, we're going to come before it's with water.
Well, we have talked to those folks. I want to say about two things. One, that the fire department did an excellent job. We talked about that, and they were superb out there doing what they did, stopping that thing. But I want to brag on the water department. Is anybody here? So I'm not going to say nothing. Last night, we had a major water break line, a major water line break on Denver Street. People don't tend to know about those things like they do fire so much or flood. It was a major, and I went down there and witnessed it. And I'm telling you, it was a horrible looking situation. I was just freaking out looking at it. Kenny Dorsey and who else would have been in the hole down there with him?
That probably would have been Rob.
Dents was not. He was there. Who?
Rob and Larry.
Larry was in the hole with him, and this is about an 8-foot hole. So they're in a hole. It's halfway full of water. They're fighting the water. There is a pole that's on Mr. Van Gorder's property or on the right of way that they had to call in a utility truck to hold the pole because we dug down past the pole and it is completely exposed. So the only thing keeping that pole from crushing these guys was that utility clamp. There was fiber optic in there. There was sewer pipe. They were there. I got a call at 3 o'clock from a citizen to tell me, and I called them, and they got down there no later than 4. And when I left them at 10:30, they were still there.
What caused the break?
Mr. Posey would be the only one to say it correctly, but I think just time, abrasion.
Fiber optic was drilling through and hit one of their, they had a clamp and hit some of the screws and finally just hit it.
Okay. So it could have been a disaster for.
It was in the building.
I don't know. The guys in the hole.
I tried to do the same thing when they hit my sewer.
I'm telling you, this is Kenny Dorsey, and here's the backhoe down there, within inches of him. That's just what they had to do, and they handled it. They didn't ask any questions. I went and got them some pizza, just like I don't know that they wanted pizza in the hole, but you didn't get any, Greg.
I was at the water plant until after midnight.
They were supposed to bring you one.
I was making what they were looking.
Oh, okay. But that was amazing, and those guys deserve some kudos for sure, as obviously fire departments do, and police and everybody. But anyway,
It's their job, but they did it so well.
it's their job, and they don't grab it that well. They may grab to Tim, but they don't grab to me. They do it well. And Tim made a good point. He said, we are the best at this, and I believe it. So, you see Tim Posey and those guys? Yes, sir.
Just want to thank the street department. We took the first radar sign that used to hang on poles. We had to go around and unscrew it, put it up. I bought a trailer and they fabricated what was needed to put the radar on top of this trailer. So now we can move it around to different spots. And it's done. I pick it up tomorrow. So thank you.
I'm anxious to see that thing around town, for sure, especially school starting. I know that's your deal. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Just, people come here, like to move here because it's safe. They like to move here because we've got good schools.
Yep.
Thursday, 11:30, up the cafeteria, Teacher Appreciation Day. And we have good schools, largely because we have good teachers. We have good teachers because they know the community likes them and appreciates them. Y'all are all invited. We'd love to have you be our guest, come up there and help us say thanks to our teachers. 11:30 at the school cafeteria.
And I would like to publicly ask my wife to stand up for just a half second. Would you please stand up? Pam is retired as a 27-year teacher, so I want you to give her a I need a second tomorrow night. Anything else?
I make another motion.
Another motion? You're right. Thank you very much. I thought I was coming. Yeah.